on KBC Channel 1, Senate TV on Signet, as well as YouTube, courtesy of the Parliament of Kenya YouTube channel. This afternoon, there will be a petition which will be presented to the Senate by the Chairperson Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries. It is on the report of Standing Committee on Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries on the petition concerning challenges facing small-scale tea growers in the Kenya Tea Development Agency. As well, there are a number of papers which will be laid on the table of the Senate this afternoon. And one of those is by the Chairperson Sessional Committee on Delegated Legislation. The paper is on the report of the Sessional Committee on the visits to Machakos and Kajiado counties. The Senate Majority Leader will lay on the table of the Senate various papers, among them the end-of-term report of the Control of Budget for the period 2011 to 2019, the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of Kisumu County Car and Mortgage Scheme Fund for the year ended 30th June 2018, report of the Auditor General on the Isiolo County Assembly Car Loan Fund for the year ended 30th June 2017, the report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of County Assembly of Tana River Gratuity Fund for the year ended 30th June 2016, among other papers. Nominated Senator Dr. Gertrude Musuruve will make a statement on the Deaf Awareness Month. Nominated Senator Dr. Alice Milgo will make a statement on the xenophobic attacks on foreign nationals, including Kenyans living and doing business in South Africa. Nominated Senator Dr. Isaac Mwaura will seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health on the stalled construction of the Goto Level 4 Hospital in Kiambu County. Nominated Senator Naomi Shionga will seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources on the destruction caused by hippos in Kakamega County. The Senator for Kitui County, Senator Enoch Umbua, will seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense and Foreign Relations on the banditry attacks in Kitui County. The Senator for Vihiga County, Senator George Haniri, will seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health on the rapid collapse of Kenya's healthcare system. And later, the Senate Majority Leader will issue a statement on the business of the Senate for the week commencing on Tuesday, 17th September 2019, when the Senate is expected to take its sittings to the county of Kitui under the Senate Mashinani. This will be the second time the senators will be convening outside the Senate chambers in Nairobi. The first one was in Uasin Gishu County, and that was in the year 2018. The Senator, Honorable Charles Kibiru, will move a motion on planting of trees along major infrastructure projects in Kenya. The member is concerned that by the extent of environmental degradation that takes place when undertaking infrastructure projects, entailing clearance of trees, foliage, soils, rocks, excavation of quarries, interference with forests, wetlands, rivers, drainage systems, and other embankments, as well as human and wildlife displacements along the parts of the infrastructure projects, that the Senate resolves that the national government, together with county governments, formulate a policy mandating the planting of trees alongside and around all major infrastructure projects across the country, setting out the roles of various actors at both national and county levels. The debate on this had already begun. The time allocated is 2 hours. Also in the order of business is a motion by the Honorable Member Millicent Omanga, and the motion regards legal and policy interventions for caregivers of persons with permanent motor and neurological disorders. The Senator for Uasin Gishu County, Senator Margaret Kamar, will also move a motion on the report of the... There is some activity at the door, and right now I will be handing you over so that you can follow these proceedings of the Senate. courtesy of the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit in conjunction with the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. My name is Edward Kabasa. Good afternoon.
And let us pray. Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor and blessings as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
Chairman, Standing Committee on Agriculture. Yes, what's the point of order, Senator Wetangula?
Mr. Speaker, I don't know if it has been brought to your attention that these gadgets are malfunctioning. Every time you want to get to the order paper, you are only limited up to August, and we're in September. And this was yesterday, now today, same thing. I called the officers yesterday, they fiddled with my machine the whole afternoon, it didn't work, and it's not the only one. I know others who are not accessing the order paper on the gadget. If it can be rectified. And in the meantime, can we have hard copies of the order paper to help us follow the proceedings?
Okay, can you circulate the hard copies of the order paper as you work on the technical problem? Any member from Agriculture Committee? Was this Senator Chila Yako?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I am here, although not fully briefed on the matter, but my chair, I want to believe that he's on the way and should be able to, on behalf of my committee, supply the requisite report. So
okay, in that case, then I defer the petition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, next order.
Order number 5, papers.
Chairperson, Standing Committee, delegated legislation.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, Thursday, 12 September 2019. Report on Sessional Committee and Delegated Legislation on the visit of Machakos and Kajiado County. I thank you.
Leader of Majority.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the Senate
on Thursday, 12 September 2019. End of the term report for the control of budget for the period 2011 to 2019. Report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Kisumu County Car and Mortgage Scheme Fund for the year ended 30 June 2018. Report of the Auditor General on the Isiolo County Assembly Car Loan Fund for the year ended 30 June 2017. Report of the Auditor General on the Isiolo County Assembly Car Loan Fund for the year ended 30 June 2016. Report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Trans Nzoia County Youth and Women Development Fund for the year ended 30 June 2018. Report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Olkalau Water and Sanitation Company Limited for the year 30th June, ended 30th June 2018. Report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Trans Nzoia County Nawiri Fund for the year ended 30th June 2018. Report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of Nyandarua Water and Sanitation Company Limited for the year ended 30th June 2018. Report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of County Assembly of Tana River Car Loan and Mortgage Loan Fund for the year ended 30th June 2017. Report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of County Assembly of Tana River Car Loan and Mortgage Loan Fund for the year ended 30th June 2016. Report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of County Assembly of Tana River Gratuity Fund for the year ended 30th June 2018. Report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of County Assembly of Tana River Gratuity Fund for the year ended 30th June 2017. And report of the Auditor General on the financial statement of County Assembly of Tana River Gratuity Fund for the year ended 30th June 2016. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, statements.
Leader of Majority.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 52.1, I hereby present to the Senate the business of the House for the week commencing Tuesday, 17th September 2019. I wish to take this opportunity to welcome you all from the recess and hope that you are rejuvenated for the business of the House. As the Honorable Speaker alluded on Tuesday, 10th September 2019, we have 9 bills that are pending at the Committee of the Whole stage, 13 bills at the second reading stage, 5 bills due for first reading, as well as petitions and statements pending before standing committees. I urge all sponsors of bills as well as respective committee chairpersons to be proactive to have these bills expedited. I also take this opportunity to urge the committees to expedite consideration of petitions before them and table reports pursuant to the standing orders. Honorable Senators, the Senate is scheduled to hold a sitting in Kitui County from 16th to 20th September 2019, pursuant to a resolution approved on 13th June 2019. To this end, the Senate Business Committee will meet on Tuesday, 17th September 2019 in Kitui to schedule business for the week. On that day, and subject to further directions by the Senate Business Committee, the Senate would consider the following bills and motions: the County Tourism Bill, Senate Bill number 5 of 2019, the Street Vendors Protection and Livelihood Bill, Senate Bill number 10 of 2019, motion on engagement of community health workers by county governments. And on Wednesday, 18 September 2019, the Senate will consider any business not concluded on Tuesday, 17th, and the following bills: the County Allocation of Revenue Bill, Senate Bill number 8 of 2019, the County Hall of Fame Bill, Senate Bill number 39 of 2019, and the Commission on Administrative Justice Bill, Senate Bill number 6 of 2019. On Thursday, 19 September 2019, the Senate will continue with consideration of business that will not be concluded on Wednesday, 17 September, and the following motions: motion on formation of Community Forest Association to aid in management of forest resources within counties, motion on policy intervention of caregivers of persons with permanent motor and neurological disorders, and various motions on reports of parliamentary delegation to international conferences. Honorable Senators, a detailed program of events of the Senate has been prepared and circulated for information of Senators. I urge you to familiarize yourself with the program and to participate robustly in the activities of the Senate in Kitui. I thank you and hereby lay the statement on the table of the House.
I know in the order paper I'm supposed to start with Senator Musuruve, but because Senator Wambua is going to Kitui to prepare for hosting us, I'll give him an opportunity so that he can take leave after that. So Senator Wambua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I seek your indulgence before I read the statement to just say a thing or two about the visit to Kitui. Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to once again welcome my colleagues to Kitui. As you have rightly said, after this statement, the Speaker will be leaving to Kitui to prepare to receive my colleagues, and I want to assure them that everything has been put in place. Our arrangements are ready to get senators to be in Kitui for 1 week. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your indulgence, and now I seek the statement. The Speaker, sir, pursuant to Standing Order number 48.1, I rise to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense, and Foreign Relations regarding the banditry attacks in Kitui County that have led to killing and maiming of residents of Kitui East, Mwingi Central, and Mwingi North constituencies by alleged Kamo herders. In the statement, the committee should, 1, explain the circumstances under which Mr. Molatia Mwenyao Isuko was killed by Kamo herders on Sunday, 8th September 2019 at Ikandani in Modha Ward. Number 2, explain the circumstances under which a teacher at Kalambani Primary School, Mr. Jonathan Gao, was speared and injured at Ingo in Modha Ward on Saturday, the 7th of September 2019. Number 3, explain the circumstances under which Mr. Mwendwa Matuku was shot and injured at Ingo in Modha Ward on Saturday, 7th September 2019. Number 4, explain the circumstances under which Mrs. Katuku Kieti was accosted and hacked by Kamo herders on 30th of August 2019 at Ndaloni village in Modha Ward. If I provide names of the owners of the said Kamos and their herders, explain why they have not been apprehended, and state when they will be brought to book. And lastly, explain the measures that the government is putting in place to end this decade-long menace and stop the killing and maiming of people. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Olekina.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I thank you. I raise to support the statement by my good senator from Kitui. And I would like, when the Security Committee is going to be looking at that issue, to also consider a situation where we have in Narok County where 2 clans, the Syria and the Moitanic, have constantly been fighting serious insecurities in that area as a result of a boundary dispute. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, this issue of insecurity is something which this country must take very, very seriously so that we can be able to ensure that Kenyans can be peaceful wherever they are. The issue of security, if left unattended, it is something which can be able to really bring a lot of lack of law and order in this country. So what is happening in Kitui is also happening in Narok. And I hope that the Security Committee and Senator Sakaja will be able to come with proper way forward on how to deal with this issue of insecurity. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Nderetu John Kinywa.
Asante sana Bwana Spika kunipa fursa hii. Nasimama kusema ya kwamba maneno yaliyosemwa na seneta wa kutoka Kitui ni ukweli na ni ukweli mtupu, na kamati ambayo inahusika inapaswa izingatie hasa na si ile sehemu peke yake, hata Laikipia. Ukiangalia mambo ya hawa wezi wa mifugo, wamekuwa ni kidonda sugu. Ukienda sehemu za Kinamba, Wangwashe, uende sehemu za Ormoran, imekuwa kila wakati watu hawalali, inakuwa kazi yao ni kufuata hawa wezi wa mifugo. Na jambo ambalo linavunja moyo sana ni ya kuwa waziri anayehusika, waziri wa usalama, aliwapokonya wale ambao ni vijana waliopewa bunduki kihalali na serikali, na kwa kisingizio kwamba wanaenda kuangalia ni vipi ambavyo hizo silaha zilizopeanwa. Kwa hivyo sisi tunataka kusema ya kwamba kamati ambayo inahusika ifuatilie kwa mapana na marefu, ndio tuweze kujua kisa na maana, kwa sababu mambo ya usalama katika nchi yetu ya Kenya imekuwa ni jambo ambalo tunaliongea kila wakati, usiku na mchana, na tunaona kana kwamba hakuna jambo lolote linalotendeka. Asante sana Bwana Spika.
Senator Ochilo yako.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to support the statement that has been made by our colleague and next week host, Senator Wambua of Kitui. Mr. Speaker, the committee that will be looking into this matter should know that when attacks are visited on a community, most communities, when the state does not respond to defend them in time, tend to arm themselves. And very soon, Mr. Speaker, what we are likely to see is the Kamba community in Kitui taking arms. And when they take arms, the Somali community that is visiting that area for herding will also take arms. So I want the committee to know that they are dealing with a situation that is likely to escalate into serious conflict that might draw in more animosity and destruction of property. So they should tell the member and those concerned what long-lasting measures they are putting in place to ensure that this conflict does not snowball into something that we cannot control. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Mwenye Haji Mohamed.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kuchangia arifa iliyotolewa na Senator wa Kitui, Senator Wambua. Mheshimiwa Spika, usalama wa nchi na mali yao ni jambo muhimu sana kwa taifa, kwa sababu ni jukumu la kwanza kabisa la serikali yoyote kuhakikisha kwamba kuna usalama wa mali na wananchi katika nchi yake. Visa vya mauaji kama haya yaliyotokea Kitui yametokea Taita na yametokea sehemu zingine za nchi. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni muhimu sasa kwamba tuone kwamba yale mapendekezo ya community policing yanatekelezwa, kwa sababu mauaji haya mengi yanatokea katika maeneo ambayo wananchi wanaishi katika kaunti zetu, na iwapo hatutachukua hatua za haraka, kila sehemu Mheshimiwa Spika itapata matatizo ya ukosefu wa usalama. Haiwezekani kwamba raia alalamike kuhusiana na mifugo kuingia katika shamba lake, raia yule aweze kupigwa kudungwa mkuki na afariki. Haiwezekani Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hivyo ni jambo ambalo lazima tulitilie maanani na lichukuliwe kama jambo la uzito, kwa sababu mtu kupoteza maisha sio jambo dogo. Anaacha familia, anaacha jamaa, watoto wanapata shida. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ni jambo ambalo kamati husika lazima iangalie, kwa sababu vita dhidi ya ukosefu wa lishe kwa mifugo na mifugo kurandaranda ni jambo ambalo linasaidia linaathiri kaunti zote katika nchi ya Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, asante.
Senator Dulo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to congratulate Senator for Kitui, because this is a matter that is affecting most of pastoral areas. Mr. Speaker, it's really unfortunate that 21st century up to date, people are fighting over cattle rustling. And I remember when we interviewed the Inspector General, he said he had capacity to deal with the issues of cattle rustling. And I don't know what he has been doing, but this matter of cattle rustling is happening. Even today in my county, a place called Modogash, people are fighting as we are speaking now, just simply because of resources. Mr. Speaker, it's almost 3-4 months down the line where the NPR firearms are taken, and we are being told that they are working on policy. Mr. Speaker, for example, in Isiolo County, Samburu side, they have firearms. Northeastern side, they have firearms. We are the only ones who are not armed. How are we going to defend ourselves? And I think this matter is very serious, and the Ministry of Interior needs to do something about it, because loss of life is not something easy. Secondly, we are losing our animals day in, day out. When you have like 500 goats and they disappear today, or they are taken by somebody, and the police are not following. This is a matter that is affecting us, Mr. Speaker, and I hope the committee that is going to look at this matter where I belong, they'll be able to resolve the issues of NPRs and to make sure that our people are armed, because with those NPR, we can be able to complement insecurity issues happening in our counties. But right now, as we are just helpless, Mr. Speaker. And I hope this matter will be resolved as soon as possible. And I wish Ministry of Interior, and more so IG. I remember there are people who even from Kitui who came to support him, saying that he was the best to deal with these matters. But we have not seen those results as yet. So IG, wherever you are, make sure that you have resolved the issues of cattle rustling and insecurity in this country. I thank you.
Senator Wetangula.
Mr. Speaker, there is a law that requires security organs in every county to work in harmony, in cooperation and collaboration with the county governments. In fact, with the governors of counties being the chairs of the security board of their counties. The national government has arrogantly and defiantly ignored that law. To the extent, Mr. Speaker, and you yourself was a governor, and you know how much we tried for you to chair that board, and it was rebuffed. To the extent, Mr. Speaker, that there are parallel systems, literally, in the counties. The county management, devolution, and all other local issues are strangers to matter of security. And this, Mr. Speaker, makes it very difficult for even wananchi and ordinary people in the villages to volunteer information. We used to call the police utumishi kwa wote. If you are in the UK, Mr. Speaker, and you see a policeman and you are in trouble, your problems disappear. In Kenya, your problems multiply, Mr. Speaker. That is the problem. And when you hear a member coming here to read us a list of people who have been killed, he's not even asking for compensation. These people must be compensated by the state for its negligence in providing security for them. So, Mr. Speaker, this House must be very, very firm on matter security, because the theater of security operations is in the counties that we represent and protect. And anyone life lost in Kitui is a life lost in Marakwet, is a life lost in Isiolo, is a life lost everywhere. And we must all feel the loss and the pain. And urge the Committee of Security, in which my distinguished colleague from Isiolo, who has spoken very passionately, is a key member and a member of the government, that we need to see action. Because when the head of the house is wailing, what will the children do, Mr. Speaker?
Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me a chance to add my voice on this important statement by our colleague, Senator of Kitui. Mr. Speaker, this issue has been coming up from Taita Tafeta the other day, from Isiolo most of the time. We have also heard from Narok. The issue of cattle wrestling and also the issue of conflict between hunters from different communities is an issue that we need to look at as a country. I hope the committee that will look at this issue will urgently look at why haven't we resolved this issue since that time the Taita Tafeta petition came in. And I also believe that county governments could also put some measures on the ground to make sure that some of these farms that have liens for pastoralist communities are also secured enough, and they also agree so that this issue of killing each other because of conflict is resolved. So I want to urge the Committee of Security to really take this issue very seriously. And again, the Office of IG should also take this issue very, very seriously. Many of the security organs that are in our counties are just relaxing. We see them doing very, very little. We have had this issue of Kitui many a times coming up again and again. I wish the Committee of Security, now that our colleague Senator Sakaja is here, the Security Committee should take this conflict of these herders very, very seriously, so that it doesn't occur in every other county.
Senator Hargura Godana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank Senator Wambua for bringing up this insecurity affecting mainly pastoral communities, in his case, pastoral community against maybe settled farming communities. But Mr. Speaker, I'd like to join my colleagues in urging the State Department for Security to make sure that they look at how the security policy of this country is being handled. Because in the pastoral areas, because of the vastness of the areas, the distance between the populations, it has been difficult for the government to have effective policing in those areas. And with the time, they have introduced the NPRs, the former Kenya Police Reservists, to assist the police in policing or providing security in those areas. Because the communities are mobile, they'll be moving with them. But drastically, sometimes, early this year, the CS Interior came up with a policy where they had to disarm all the NPRs. And that one has opened up those areas to very serious insecurity, because there are no regular police officers or the administration police officers, which nowadays have been collapsed into one. And even once that the KPRs or the NPRs were withdrawn, we expected the coverage of the police to be enhanced so that they have police posts in each and every settled area, in each and every village, which are sometimes even 60 kilometers apart. But while waiting for that to be done, as we have been promised, when they collapsed the administration police and the regular police into one, they closed down the administration police posts, which are all over the place. Now, the NPRs are not there. The administration police who have been there have been removed. It's only the guys with illegal guns who are now running the show there. And we have always been asking at the county level. And it's like nobody knows what is going on. We are told we are vetting the NPRs, wait, we are going to rearm them, and nothing is happening. That is why insecurity, like in my county, is continuing on a daily basis, because it's now the guys with the illegal guns who are having a field day, and they know there is nobody to counter them. You could find a village, like there was sometimes last month, a whole divisional headquarter
was terrorized by 2 young men with guns, and there was nobody to respond. So I think I'd like to urge the Chairman Security Committee to interrogate that policy. What happened that all of a sudden the government felt that it's providing enough security and withdrew the NPRs, because that is one of the problems we have. And we thought for a long time that was the sustainable way to provide security in these pastoral areas. Thank you.
Senator Christopher Lagat.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for also giving me this chance to make my comment on this particular very important statement from the senator from Kitui. Yesterday, again, we were talking about almost the same thing, that an hospital at level 4 has been closed down because of the same insecurity from the same area. And I want to say that I don't think it is a question of insufficient human resource, but a displacement. It is actually, I would rather say, it is lack of proper priorities on what to do from that office of the IG. I remember last week, when the same office of the IG actually sent a contingent of 150 general servicemen, very strong ones, fully armed, just to arrest one MP. What is the priority of this man? I want to say that it's a shame on him actually that insecurity is so prevalent from where the IG come from. If that is the case, therefore, other areas are more insecure. So I want to say it's a shame, and I am actually withdrawing my great praises that we have actually said about him when he was being, when immediately had been nominated on this particular position. We had actually talked about his colorful CV on the same, but I want to say that now there is a lot of doubt on that particular, on his particular CV. He should come up actually to this particular issue. He should address it with immediate effect. And I would have even rather said that while we shall be in Kitui, the committee concerned should actually invite him to come to that particular place so that he may even go around and hear for himself what is happening. So I want to say it's a great shame that we are talking about things that had declined in the previous leadership of the former IG. So I want to say this is a great shame on his side, and he should improve on the same. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Murkomen.
Mr. Speaker, I like to join Senator Wambua in actually asking the committee to take this thing very seriously. Mr. Speaker, having gone through, and I said this yesterday, coming from a county that struggles with cattle rustling, I would like to offer my support for Senator Wambua, but also suggestions on better ways of handling these issues of cattle rustling and conflict between farmers and those who are livestock keepers. The Speaker, we struggled in Elgeyo Marakwet for a long period of time between us and West Pokot, and we still struggle. But what is important, I think, is for Senator Wambua and Senator Haji. The Speaker, interestingly, the chair of Security Committee comes from the county that Senator Wambua is complaining about, cattle rustlers and grazers coming from that county. I want to suggest to Senator Wambua something that we tried the last 3 months. And you must have seen in the news, there is no reports again coming from Kerio Valley that people are dying and livestock are being stolen and so forth. We realized that the police, modern policemen, if you send them to front line of battle, they are not as courageous as the policemen we used to have before. Most of them who are posted to come to Kerio Valley were spending time along the centers and enjoying life, enjoying their allowances. They were not taking the risk to go to the front to deal with the cattle rustlers. So the first step was to look for reservists. Those reservists helped to some extent, but you see, police reservists, some are from this side, the others from the other side, they cannot intermingle, so everybody is trying to protect their turf. Finally, we decided that as leaders, we want to talk to our people jointly, leaders from Pokot and leaders from Marakwet. And we held meetings. We went there, looked for the boys who are called kid rustlers because they don't have jobs, they don't have what they're doing, held meetings, discussed about grazing, possibility of grazing rights for farmers from Pokot or livestock keepers from Pokot and ourselves and so forth. For now, 3 months, we've enjoyed a lot of peace. So other than just depending on police officers to come and deal with the situation, I think leaders, the local leaders from that area, the MPs, the MCAs, the opinion leaders, you can borrow leaf from what we did and organize a conversation so that nobody needs to fight over, you know, this one is coming to graze in my farm, they're destroying our crops, they're doing all this kind of thing. If you have an agreement, and we even went ahead with a lawyer to sign an agreement, you know, on how to keep peace and how to relate with our neighbors and so forth, those are only the mechanisms that can work. Interestingly, Senator Yusuf Aji, also when we were here last time, helped in the part of Kapedo to bring peace and some parts of Wajir and Mandera. This can be achieved between Kitui and Garissa, and the Senate can project a very positive role to see Senator Wambua and Senator Haji on the ground, leading the other members of parliament and the MCAs in looking for ways to resolve this problem than to depend on the police officers. If I can suggest that, that will be a better. The second thing is to say, I understand the IG comes from that region. But in reality, actually when he was here, he kept saying, and I watched when he was being interviewed, that cat rustling will be something of the past. Something of the past. It's become worse in parts that never had it. It was even worse in my place. And in fact, if you allow me, Mr. Speaker, just 1 minute. In Kerio Valley, why we even took an initiative to deal with this issue ourselves, the police resorted to extrajudicial killing. They started picking people and saying, this is an opinion leader, let's just kill them so that then it will scare the kid rustlers from coming there. That's how my PA on the ground was killed. You know, because they were picking individuals here and there and saying that we want to hang this, and it was terrible. A number of young people from Pokot were actually killed on the account of we are ending cat rustlers, and the same from the Marakwet side. And I want to say that
your point of order,
policemen,
Senator Wetangula.
Mr. Speaker, it's interesting listening to my distinguished colleague from Elgeyo Marakwet, being the majority leader and therefore the representative of the national government in this house. Is it in order for him to continue belaboring a point that appeared to point at the fact that the government has abdicated its responsibility on security and let the communities deal with security in their own way? Is that what the government is supposed to do, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, it is the president who says security starts with you. So it's the government policy I'm propagating here, Mr. Speaker, that it starts with the leaders of that region and the citizens of that area. I am not contradicting the government. In fact, if anything, I am insisting that where policemen are unable to do anything, it is us, the citizens, who should be able to do it. But in reality, actually, Mr. Speaker, there are certain elements of peacekeeping that don't depend on security operations. Mr. Speaker, work becomes easier if all the citizens themselves assist police officers in solving their problems. But I'm not saying that the police officers are clean or they can abdicate their duty. In any case, I thought you were coming to agree with me and say that a person who is a leader from the government party, the majority party, Mr. Speaker, the party that has formed the government, is, Mr. Speaker, admitting publicly that extrajudicial killing is real. Mr. Speaker, that it's a reality on the ground. It is the reality in Isiolo, where my deputy comes from. It is a reality in northeastern, most parts of the northeastern, Mr. Speaker. And this is something that the Human Rights Committee and the Security Committee must take it seriously. If we want to take this country forward, Mr. Speaker, and I'm on record publicly, even at home, if we want to take this country forward, it starts with proper diagnosis and telling ourselves the truth. There are certain things that the police officers must stop doing. Some of them are the things I was talking about. The others is colluding with cattle rustlers to facilitate stealing of animals so that they can sell them, Mr. Speaker, and share in the loot from the animals that are being stolen. These are the things, the evils that are within the business of cattle rustling. Actually, we discovered, Mr. Speaker, that it was not just the old cattle rustling where people are saying it's a cultural competition looking for livestock to eat or to keep or so forth. It's become business that includes even people, auctioneers, Mr. Speaker, people who are going to auction, Mr. Speaker, animals in various markets in West Pokot and in Elgeyo Marakwet County. The same way in Kitui, I suspect, and Mr. Speaker, in that part of the country.
What's
so
your
these
point
are
of order,
the things
Senator Khaniri?
that we need to deal with, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I hate to see ourselves contravening the provisions of the standing orders that guide this House, Mr. Speaker. I know under motions and bills, the leader of majority has unlimited time. But, Mr. Speaker, the provisions of Standing Order 48.1 are very clear. Senator Wambua requested for a statement under Standing Order 48.1, and it goes to say, Mr. Speaker, a senator who wishes to raise a matter under paragraph 1 shall at least 24 hours before the Senate meets on the day on which the statement is proposed to be requested, hand over the clerk a written notification on the matter signed by the senator. Where the statement has been requested from a committee pursuant to paragraph 1, the Speaker may allow comments in relation to the statement for not more than 15 minutes. Mr. Speaker, since we came in here, it's been about 30 minutes debating a statement, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, there are reasons why these standing orders were put in place, Mr. Speaker. The provision is that we make comments for 15 minutes. The leader of majority alone has taken 15 minutes debating a statement. It is not debate time, Mr. Speaker. It is supposed to be comments, a minute per member. So he's in order to hijack the statement by my neighbor, Senator Wambua. And
Mr. Speaker, if you see Senator George Kaniri, Mr. Speaker, he has taken 3 minutes, Mr. Speaker, raising a point of order. Mr. Speaker, and he is not holding any position of leadership in this House. What about now majority leader, Mr. Speaker? And you can see he's even contributing the standing orders. I'm standing, he's standing, Mr. Speaker. Yeah? But the point is this, I don't want to go beyond that so that we close this matter. The thing is that this is an issue that is dear to me. It's an issue we've grappled with in all of last term, this term. So, Mr. Speaker, you can understand the passion and the suggestions I was making to the committee so that, Mr. Speaker, when they come back, we must look at this thing from a wider perspective. But I agree with Senator Kaniri that the comments should always be as brief as possible. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, honorable members, I know the standing orders were made by yourselves, so it will be important that we observe what we made. But again, yesterday I had leader of minority raise some very important issues about time limits when people are talking. And I remember he said he wanted to emulate Shikuku, who would talk for 2 weeks. On bills. So I noted, and there was a lot of time. So the point I'm making is that, let's try as much as possible to limit or to condense what we say so that we are within the provision of the standing orders. Senator Orengo James.
Mr. Speaker, I want to support this statement by saying, as this statement is required, it should never be lost on us that the Constitution has established organs which are accountable to Parliament, and therefore this question is being directed to the proper organs of government, because otherwise you cannot bring the people of Kitui here to tell you why there is insecurity in Kitui, because they are constitutional organs who have been given the function, that function. When I was in Turkana recently, I was so happy to hear people from Karamajong. They were saying the security organs have been trained to deal with cattle rustling, as security organs. And that on the other part of the border in Uganda, they were not experiencing the same kind of difficulties we were experiencing in Turkana and in Pokot. Therefore, I would want to say, Mr. Speaker, and conscious of what Senator Haniri has said, that the question is about criminal activity, banditry. That is a criminal activity. And the only organs that can be accountable on that basis is the organs which are established under the Constitution. So I hope when that answer comes, it will be give an answer which is exhaustive on the question of banditry in Kitui, because this is not the first time it is being brought to this House. And possibly, I think the Inspector General should be made to appear before us in Kitui to tell us why, this thing is taking place in that part of the world. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next statement, Senator Gertrude Musuruve.
Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you for this opportunity. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 47-1 to make a statement on Deaf Awareness Month that is marked in the month of September every year. And Mr. Speaker, I would like to say that this is a topic that is of general concern nationally. It is a topic that is of general concern internationally. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that the Deaf Awareness Month is actually marked so that to raise awareness on issues of deaf persons, their cultures, their concerns, and their challenges. And Mr. Speaker, the purpose of raising awareness of Deaf Awareness Month is to ensure inclusivity of persons with disability, is to ensure inclusivity of the deaf who are the minority. Mr. Speaker, I want to say before this Senate that the deaf have challenges, linguistic challenges, and since they have linguistic challenges, it is just prudent that their issues are understood for the sake of ensuring that understanding their issues will make them be included in the society. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that when you're talking about issues of deafness, the deaf issue, is on a continuum. As in, for instance, there are some people who are deaf and they're not aware they are deaf, because there's a whole chain of, continuum. We have people who are mild in terms of deafness. We have those who are severe in terms of profound in terms of deafness. So, Mr. Speaker.
What's your point of order, Senator Mutula Kilonzo?
Senator Haniri has given me responsibility of managing standing orders. I'm just wondering whether in statement hour, the statement is supposed to be read or the statement is supposed to be debated. Speaker, is Senator Musuruve in order to add into her statement and debate her statement before she presents the statement? Yeah.
Senator, you should observe the standing order. You don't discuss your own statement. Just give the statement.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I was not discussing, I was just saying it, but let me just read it. Yes, because it's on the fingertips, but let me just read. So then let me go into reading. Mr. Speaker, sir, I rise pursuant to Standing Order 47-1 to make a statement on Deaf Awareness Month that is marked in the month of September every year. The United Nations has also declared 23rd to 29th of September every year as Deaf Awareness Week. The beginning date of the Deaf Awareness Week, that is 23rd September, has been declared by the United Nations as the Day of Sign Language. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would like to raise this awareness to my fellow senators. And the purpose of the Awareness Month is to increase public awareness of deaf to the wider society for the purpose of inclusion. Deaf refers to people who may lack the power of hearing or having residual hearing. Deafness runs on a continuum that is mild to profound. Mild hearing loss, deaf, can benefit from using hearing aids that amplify sound. Mr. Speaker, sir, there are different levels of hearing loss, that is mild hearing loss. The quietest sounds people with mild hearing loss can hear are between 25 and 40 dB. Then we have moderate hearing loss. On average, someone with moderate hearing loss cannot hear sounds that are less than 40 to 75 decibels. C, severe hearing loss can benefit from environmental noise. D, profound hearing loss. Mr. Speaker, sir, the deaf have their own culture when communicating. They use body movements. They also look at each other face to face, and this forms part of their culture. Mr. Speaker, sir, there are many or rather varied causes of deafness. For instance, aging, use of ototoxic drugs, that is medications that damage hearing, excessive exposure to noise. For instance, Masons end up being deaf, viral infections, meningitis, diabetes, and so on. Mr. Speaker, sir, inclusion of the deaf necessitates breaking the language barrier that exists between the deaf and the wider society. The deaf use sign language as a means of communication. Sign language is a language that uses manual signs and symbols to communicate, including also body movements. In this Awareness Month, I would like to encourage my fellow senators to desire to be part of the awareness activities that will be going on in their counties. Currently, Mr. Speaker, there are many organizations countrywide that are involved in deaf awareness. For instance, we have NAD, we have National Council of Persons with Disabilities, we have Sign Language School, we have African Annals of the Deaf, we have LibCard, we have Science TVs, among very many others. Mr. Speaker, sir, during this Deaf Awareness Month, I choose to give free instructional materials to the deaf, hearing people, and my fellow senators as a way of raising awareness. It is my hope and desire that my colleagues will be happy to embrace inclusivity in their programs. It is also my hope and desire that counties will deliberately implement affirmative action as postulated in the Constitution and leverage on Article 54(2)(b). This article, Mr. Speaker, demands that 5% of elective and appointive positions be accorded to PWDs. It is also my desire that the deaf will also be accorded gainful employment. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I want to thank the Senate Standing Committee on Education that has truly embraced sign language inclusivity. The committee, during the Senate sittings in Uasin Gishu County last year, launched instructional materials that I wrote and were KICD approved. I'm glad to state that next week during the Senate sitting in Kitui, the Education Committee will meet special needs schools at St. Michael's School for the Deaf. And I want to say before this house that I will donate sign language materials to all the schools that will be in attendance. Mr. Speaker, sir. Oh, sorry. Madam Speaker, apology for that. Madam Speaker, I would like to say that as a nation, we need to encourage research, scholarly contributions in partnership with users of sign language to ensure that it grows. We also need to encourage deaf champions in the growth of sign language, like Professor Ndurumo, Ashura Michael, Senator Msuruve, among others. Madam Speaker, I would like to urge the national and county governments to intervene in ensuring that hearing aids are given freely to deaf who have residual hearing so that they could benefit in language acquisition. Madam Speaker, the sign language bill that Professor Kamar and myself are sponsoring has been published and is due for first reading, but a small correction, it was read yesterday, Madam Speaker. Then public participation will follow. I'm calling upon linguists, I'm calling upon deaf and other interested parties to have a look at it and give meaningful inputs that will enrich the bill. Madam Speaker, lastly, I wish to state that education is an important bridge of achieving
Order, Senator Musuruve. Point of order from Senator Sakaja.
Madam Speaker, I do want to interrupt Senator Musuruve, but I've heard her saying lastly. And when she said lastly, she had, I feel very hurt and dismayed that she had thanked the Education Committee and forgot her own committee on labor that has been supporting the issue of deaf people, surely. And she's a member of that committee, and the chair is here and the vice chair is here. You know, a prophet in their own home might not be recognized. Can she please not finish before she notes that even in that bill we have been supporting her, Madam Speaker?
Senator Musuruve, you
Madam
may
Speaker.
need to acquit yourself from those allegations that you're ignoring your own committee.
Madam Speaker, that was a gross error that I want to apologize even to my chair, Labour. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, even Kenyans must know that Chair Labour is truly inclusive and he supports issues of disability up to the very end. And even, Madam Speaker, this particular bill I'm talking about was initially sent to the Labour Committee and it was published through the Labour Committee. Then it was taken to Education.
I think that does justice to your committee and the chair. So you may proceed with your statement.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And even Chair Education really knows sign language. He can even sign his name in sign language. Lastly, Madam Speaker, I wish to state that education is an important bridge of achieving parity between the deaf and the wider society. I therefore urge the Ministry of Education, KICD, and relevant stakeholders to deliberately endeavor to afford quality education to this marginalized group. Madam Speaker, I would like to wish all Kenyans a happy Deaf Month. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I will allow just a little of a bit of comments because I can see the queue is long. So you'll take a very short time to make your comments. Senator Melgo Alice Chepkorir.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support this motion this statement, sorry. This statement from Senator Dr. Ketun Musuruve. Indeed, a very important statement, particularly during this Deafness Awareness Month. And I think she's brought to the fore very many issues that affect people having issues of deafness. And in most cases, I'm sure, going out from here today, we shall have been informed of some of the causes that actually lead to deafness, and we will be able to advocate or rather champion to ensure that this is prevented, as well as be able to even advocate for issues of actually identifying the people that have deafness, because I've realized there are so many, or rather they vary in terms of deafness. And for that matter, we need proper identification methods, just in addition to treatment. Madam Speaker, I think this is a very important statement, more importantly because most deaf people have been left behind because of lack of proper communication, bearing in mind that there are very few people that have an understanding on sign language. And therefore, when it comes to issues of transport, schooling, sometimes they may find themselves in schools with the rest of the students that are not deaf. And in any case, I think this is high time that people with deafness should be looked into, and in this case, assisted, even to be provided with gadgets, and maybe to be taken to schools where maybe they can be treated better. Otherwise, Madam Speaker, I used to say that this is a very important statement, and we thank Dr. Musuruve because it's going to become a bill. Otherwise, with that, Madam Speaker, I support.
Senator Mbogo George Ochilo Ayako.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to take this opportunity to applaud my very good sister, Dr. Musuruve, for drawing our attention to the fact that we should not forget the unfortunate members of the community who cannot hear. Now, Madam Speaker, I just want to request, and I do not know how Dr. Musuruve will manage this. We want a situation where we are part of the deaf communication here. So if we can get a way that she can speak the sign language, and we get a way that the same can be interpreted so that we feel what they feel and we get to understand them in practice at a place where we work. So, Madam Musuruve, it's my plea during this month, if together with the leadership of the House, we can have a situation where we participate in the communication that would bring us closer to interfacing with what the deaf and the mute go through. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Sakaja Johnson Arthur.
Senator Musuruve continues to distinguish herself as a true and foremost champion for persons living with disability. Madam Speaker, for the short time I've been in Parliament, this was my second term, I've not seen a member represent the interest group that they have been nominated to represent as well as Senator Musuruve. If you're talking about anything, even about agriculture, she will ask, what about persons with disability? Any topic, Madam Speaker, even when you're having tea. And I want to let this entire community of interest in the country know that indeed they have a true champion on the issues. Madam Speaker, recently I was a guest of honor at a function invited by Senator Cherargei, supporting deaf children and families that are dealing with this. And I learned with dismay that the cost of a cochlear implant ranges between 3 to 5 million per year, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, these are not covered by insurance. And for those who are able to afford and struggle to afford it, you can see, Madam Speaker, in fact, it was very moving. You could see, the stories of a mother who, for the first time, the child hears, after years of that child being deaf, and they've saved and they've sold everything, and they get just one implant for 1 year. The emotions were really running high. Madam Speaker, during this month, and I'm grateful that Senator Musuruve has brought our attention to it, I think these are some of the things the Committee on Health need to really question. Why such devices, assistive devices to persons living with disability, still being charged duty, Madam Speaker. Whether it is import duty or custom or whatever it is, we really should do as much as possible. I keep saying the strength of a country is what it does for its vulnerable, not what it does, not the size of its army or its central bank, is what it does for those in society who cannot be able to afford. And this month I would like to urge Senator Musuruve to really push that fight for us to zero rate these implants and make sure that they're also covered by NHIF and by insurance, so that we can be able to give these children an equal opportunity. When I speak in my primary school, where I went, we had a deaf unit. And in that deaf unit, Madam Speaker, and as much as the children would take much longer to go through from class 1 to 8, they'd stay for maybe 12, 15 years. But you could just see that at the end of the day, they would still come out as intelligent, they would come out with the same abilities as the children who are able to hear properly. What we want, Madam Speaker, is a society where everybody, no matter how you're born, has an equal opportunity and a fair shot at life. And that must be done by us going proactively, looking at issues such as those that Senator Musuruve has brought. Thank you so much, Senator Gertrude Musuruve, and thank you for thanking the committee that you had forgotten, because you're a member. People just suddenly stop getting trips. Things just happen when you forget your committee, but now you're back in the good books of the chair. Thank you.
Senator Masisa Naomi Shionga.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support the statement by Senator Musuruve. Madam Speaker, I would like by congratulating Senator Musuruve, for coming up with this statement. As my colleagues have said, Senator Musuruve is one of the champions, really, who have worked very hard for people who are living with disability. And this actually displays a role that one needs to identify with, especially when you are playing a role in that particular field. Madam Speaker, Deaf Awareness Month, as Senator Musuruve has said, which is running from 23rd to 29th, is a very important month for us, not just as legislators, but as leaders of Kenya. And as it brings awareness to our communities, to our country, and to the
Order, Senator Naomi. What is it, Senator Musuruve?
Madam Speaker, just a point of order. It is the Deaf Awareness Month. And then within the month, we also have the Deaf Awareness Week that begins from 23rd to 29th. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the sponsor of the statement. The week lies in the months, and it's good that we shall be all celebrating and joining the deaf, especially this month. Madam Speaker, I was saying that lack of hearing, as well as the complications that comes with this particular disability, is one of the issues that most Kenyans, if you are not affected, then you are infected with the problem. And everyone needs to join hand in assisting this particular category or cluster of people. As rightly said by my colleagues, the government needs to continue urging and assisting these particular people, especially by visiting schools, buying the aiding gadgets or hearing gadgets, and even giving these people employment. When you are a disabled, or when you are a deaf person, it becomes very hard to communicate. However, our government, I realize that our government has given an opportunity to these people, especially when you are watching TV, and you see that some of these people are employed with our television or our TV station. It is encouraging, and to me, I want to say that let us support these particular people, let us visit them, let us help even the NGOs that are working around the clock to make sure that these people are comfortable in the community, in the society, and globally. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Halake Abshiro.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to congratulate and support Senator Musuruve for this really educative and timely statement. Madam Speaker, the issues of disability are issues of the human rights. And in our Constitution, Article 27 is very clear on the equality and freedom from discrimination of everybody on basis of race, but specifically on basis of disability in this case. Madam Speaker, a lot of times exclusion or denial of rights is a function of perhaps ignorance or a function of perhaps us not being aware. And so Senator Musuruve has done a great thing to ensure that we are aware, and therefore then we will definitely be paying attention to the rights of people with hearing impairment. But also what was very profound for me is the fact that there's a lot more we do not know that she has really brought to our attention, to the point where other leaders are thinking of what can be done, even additional to what she has mentioned. And so I would like to congratulate her. But also I am very proud of, of our constitution, because of ensuring that we have people with disabilities sitting in this house and amplifying the voices of those that do not have a voice. And ever since I got here, I could not be more proud of our constitution for ensuring that somebody with disability is sitting in this house and championing the cause of people with disabilities. And I cannot think of a better person than Senator Musuruve to be that person, because there's every opportunity she has taken to ensure that we are educated and that the rights of people with disabilities are really looked at, and also the provisions within our own constitution, be it affirmative action, be it the things that that need to be given to the cohort of people with disability, is actually championed. So I congratulate her and I support Madam Speaker.
Senator Munyihaji Muhammad Faki.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa hii kuunga mkono arifa ya Senator Musuruve. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwanza ningeanza kwa kumpongeza Senator Musuruve kwa kutetea haki za wale ambao hawakubahatika katika jamii, hususan wale ambao ni walemavu. Mheshimiwa Spika, wengi wetu tulikuwa hatujui kwamba kuna mwezi maalumu ambao unaadhimisha siku ya viziwi, lakini kwa uwezo wake ameweza kutuelimisha, na sisi pia tutaendelea kuelimisha wengine ambao walikuwa hawajui swala kama hili. Mheshimiwa Spika, tukiangalia hata sisi katika bunge la Seneti na bunge la kitaifa, hakuna mkalimali ya lugha ya ishara ambaye anatafsiri mazungumzo yanaendelea katika bunge kwa wale ambao hawasikii katika jamii. Kwa hivyo kama bunge la Seneti tumeacha nyuma sehemu kubwa ya jamii yetu ambao wangeweza kufurahia na kusikiza yale ambayo yanaendelea katika bunge kama hili na bunge la kitaifa. Kwa hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika, nafikiri kwa kuadhimisha swala hili tunapokwenda Kitui wiki ijayo, ni lazima kwa mwezi huu at least tupate mtaalamu mmoja wa lugha ya ishara ili aweze kutafsiri majadiliano ambayo yanaendelea katika bunge letu. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Next statement, Senator Alice Milgo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise pursuant to Standing Order 47-1 to make a statement on the state of Kenyans living in South Africa following the recent xenophobic attacks. Madam Speaker, as you may be aware, many foreign nationals living in South Africa, including Kenyans, were injured and others lost their lives and properties in the unfortunate xenophobic attacks the other day. Most of the businesses targeted in the attacks were owned by migrants from Nigeria, Ethiopia, Zambia, and Kenya. Most of the Nigerian people is said to have been evacuated from South Africa. These attacks have been there since 2008, Madam Speaker. It also occurred in 2015, and right now, 2019, it is there. This means that foreign nationals are not safe at all living there because these attacks keep coming up. My concerns, therefore, Madam Speaker, are what is the state of Kenyans living in South Africa? And number two, what measures have been taken to ascertain the number of Kenyans who are affected in South Africa? And three, are there any measures taken to evacuate Kenyans living in South Africa? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Milgo, you seem to be reading something different. Can you approach the chair? From what we have... Senator Milgo, you may kindly need to clarify whether you withdraw what you have already read out and read out what you have, or you let us know your stand.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I do not know how come I had to say, but first of all, let me withdraw what I have read and then read another version. Okay, thank you. This is a statement on issue of regional concerns on xenophobic attacks on foreign nationals, including Kenyans living and doing business in South Africa. Madam Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 47-1, I rise to make a statement on an issue of regional concern, namely xenophobic attacks on foreign nationals, including Kenyans living and doing business in South Africa. Madam Speaker, many foreign nationals living in South Africa have borne the brunt of renewed xenophobic attacks. Many of them have been maimed and even have lost their lives and properties in the recent xenophobic attacks. Madam Speaker, most businesses that were targeted by the xenophobic mobs were owned by migrants from Nigeria, Ethiopia, Zambia, Somalia, and Kenya, with nationals of many other countries such as Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and many other sub-Saharan countries are earning a living in South Africa. Many of these nationals
Senator
are
Cherargei, order Senator Cherargei. Can we let Senator Milgo read her statement while we listen?
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for saving me from such noise. And okay, but that was too loud anyway. Many of these nationals are now forced to forego their livelihoods and flee South Africa to escape the violence. Those who are unable to leave South Africa have run to seek refuge in community halls in Johannesburg and other affected towns. Madam Speaker, these xenophobic attacks have been sporadic from the year 2008, and the trend seems to continue. It is unfortunate that lives of foreign nationals in South Africa are not safe in the light of these attacks. The efforts by the government of South Africa to condemn the xenophobic attacks are commendable. The President of South Africa has denounced the attacks and called for action against perpetrators of the violence. Arrests have been made, and it is our hope that more will be done to prevent recurrence of such attacks in the future. Madam Speaker, it is important country to safeguard the safety of our citizens across the globe, and in this case, South Africa, where they are facing a tough time. In this regard, it is crucial that the government explains the state of Kenyans living in South Africa amid the xenophobic attacks and stipulate measures that have been taken to ascertain the number of Kenyans affected by the attacks. Madam Speaker, I would like to urge the Standing Committee on National Security, Defense, and Foreign Relations to take up the matter with the Ministry and assure this House that all is being done to ensure the safety of Kenyans in South Africa. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I can see we have about 7 requests, so I would like to ask that we be brief in our comments. Senator Wetangula Moses Masika.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I had actually drafted a similar statement to bring to this House, and I thank Senator Milgo for running ahead of the pack. Madam Speaker, what is going on in South Africa is a terrible shame. Madam Speaker, in 2008, when I was Foreign Minister of this country, similar attacks erupted in South Africa. And South Africans senselessly killed fellow black Africans. This time around, Madam Speaker, again, frustrated South African black populations have unleashed untold terror and violence on fellow blacks with the pretext that they are responsible for their unemployment and their state of economic hopelessness. I differ with the distinguished senator who purports to thank the government of South Africa for intervening. It hasn't. In fact, Madam Speaker, the government of Cyril Ramaphosa, a freedom fighter, a man who rose from the ranks of trade unionism, has been helplessly watching as fellow Africans are slaughtered. Unlike many African countries, Madam Speaker, the whole of Africa resonated with South Africa when they were fighting against apartheid. Mwalimu Julius Nyerere will turn in his grave, Madam Speaker, if he heard or saw what is going on in South Africa, given the sacrifices he made in setting up the frontline states, setting up a camp in Nachingwea, where he used meager resources of Tanzania to train combatants. Madam Speaker, Zambia, President Kaunda was bombed 4 times, including his residence by the Boers of South Africa. One of my heroes, President Samora Machel, and I have a son named after him, Madam Speaker, was killed by the Boers because he was fighting against South Africa. South Africans must be told in very clear terms, Madam Speaker, that their enemies are not fellow Africans. I want to thank and laud the government of Nigeria for what they have done. If South Africa is intolerant, we have no business being tolerant about them. In Nigeria, Madam Speaker, the Nigerians have risen to the occasion and also gone for South African investments, MTN, MultiChoice, and all those, Madam Speaker. Going that route is not necessarily helpful, but it will tell South Africans that the sacrifices Africans made to liberate them against not only an entrenched Boer regime, but a regime that was supported by the most powerful countries of the world, the entire West, led by America. Now they're turning on us. How come, Madam Speaker, as I finish, if South Africans are fighting for dispossession of resources and opportunities, how come they're not rising against the Chinese? How come they're not rising against Indians? How come they're not rising against whites who continue oppressing them up to today? 90% of the economy of South Africa, apart from a few compradors who have hijacked state resources and become billionaires, are in the hands of whites. Yet, when they look around, the only enemies they see are Nigerians, Ethiopians, Kenyans, Zambians, Zimbabweans, Botswana, all brothers who shed blood and made sacrifices with our resources to make things work. I condemn what has happened in South Africa, Madam Speaker, in the strongest terms possible, and condemn even harder President Cyril Ramaphosa for being unwilling or unable to deal with the situation of providing security for fellow Africans, their properties, their lives, and their comfort. People have gone to South Africa because we are celebrating the birth of a new nation, the Rainbow State. And we end up, Madam Speaker, feeling like moths flying towards a flame of fire and being consumed there. I thank Senator Milgo for this statement. I want Madam Speaker, in fact, to give notice that while in Kitui, I'll move a motion of adjournment to discuss what is going on in South Africa. Thank you.
Honorable Senators, as we debate this being a very touchy issue, I wish to bring to your attention Order 96 on content of speeches that reads as follows. 1, neither the personal conduct of the President nor the conduct of the Speaker or of any judge, nor the judicial conduct of any other person performing judicial functions, nor any conduct of the head of state or government or the representative in Kenya of any friendly country or the conduct of the holder of an office whose removal from such office is dependent upon a decision of the Senate shall be referred to adversely, except upon a specific substantive motion of which at least 3 days' notice has been given. So I ask that we refrain from touching on personal conduct of the President of South Africa and or any other officers as indicated in this provision, but we can generally make comments about our concerns. Yes, Senator Watangula.
Madam Speaker, I share your direction. I drafted these standing orders together with Senator Godana, the late Bonaya Godana, Julius Sunguli, and the late Henry Boch. Madam Speaker, I want to say, for the record, that the behavior of the government of South Africa and its president precludes them from the application of this standing order because what they are doing is not friendly to Kenya.
This is a friendly state, and I think these orders are expressed, and we can all be able to stick by them. And I have already asked that we kindly refrain from mentioning or from discussing the personal conduct of the President of South Africa. Senator Cheriot Aaron Kipkirui.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We'll try and abide by your ruling, difficult as it may be, especially to those of us who've had to pay not only emotional but also economic price thanks to the madness that is going on in South Africa. About 2 months ago, Madam Speaker, late at night I received a text message from a student from my county studying in South Africa who was in distress, and she had actually sought refuge at a church next to where she was living, running away from this kind of attacks, Madam Speaker. Therefore, it is not an issue that we want to treat as casually, and I'd wish to urge Senator Wetangula, though he has stepped out, that it will be proper and perhaps we'll do more justice to this particular issue if we raised actually a substantive motion, took leave of the House and discussed, complete with pointers on what we require Ministry of Foreign Affairs to do on this particular issue. This issue did not begin yesterday, Madam Speaker. You remember when President Zuma visited Kenya I think last year or 2 years ago, part of the request that Kenya made was for Kenyans to be allowed access into South Africa by being granted visa on arrival. The same way, the least we expected was for South Africa to reciprocate what we do to their citizens when they show up at JKIA. Up to this particular day, Madam Speaker, Kenyans visiting South Africa have got to undergo an extremely rigorous process of first visiting their consulate here, and they do not even extend the courtesies that are extended to the various dignitaries of this country. If a country like the UK, Madam Speaker, and many of us who are members of this House, say, for example, have had occasion to travel to the UK, we do not show up at their embassy, applying for visas and going through all those processes, queuing. What the hell is South Africa telling us? A country that is almost of the same rank as ourselves, if first world countries can extend such courtesies to at least the various state officers that we have in this country, Madam Speaker, how difficult is it for South Africa to reciprocate the same? Today, as a member of this House,
If you want to travel to South Africa, you've got to go to Westlands and queue there for hours just to get their visa. And Foreign Affairs has continued to allow the citizens of this country to continue to suffer under this particular regime. Because in my opinion, it begins with little courtesies like those ones, which upon being denied, even the citizens pick up and treat the citizens of this country as if they are citizens of any, as if they are children of a lesser God than themselves. I want to urge our colleagues, perhaps those who serve in the Pan-African Parliament, who travel to South Africa every so often, to perhaps consider sponsoring a motion in that Pan-African Parliament or moving, first of all, that parliament from South Africa. It is the worst place that it can never be located. How do you locate the Parliament of Africa in a country where Africans are being killed by fellow Africans? I mean, it's complete absurdity and something that we shouldn't tolerate. And it's good that, as I say that, Senator Dr. Abdullah is walking in. He's a member of Pan-African Parliament. This is a request that you're making to them. We need to see their contribution. Our members of Parliament on the Pan-African Parliament speak to this particular issue that is extremely urgent. Our response as a country to this particular issue, Madam Speaker, is extremely worrying because up to date, the statements that have been released by Ministry of Foreign Affairs have been anything but helpful. Because all you are being told, oh, the government is doing everything that is within every possible thing that is within their means to ensure that Kenyans are safe. That is not enough. We need to read from the news that Monica Juma has summoned the ambassador for South Africa and Kenya to come and explain to us as a country what is happening, the way it happens in other countries when such issues happen. But these kid gloves that we continue to treat other countries who do not reciprocate the kind of things that we are doing to them is extremely worrying. And Senator Wetangula, I request that you guide this house because with the experience as a Foreign Affairs Minister, it will be important when you're discussing that motion to see whether it is time to have a proper discussion with the officers you left at Foreign Affairs if they understand properly their responsibilities. I saw China the other day released a list of countries that whose citizens can be allowed into China and granted visa on arrival. Kenya is not part of those countries. I do not think there is a country that gives Chinese more business in this continent more than Kenya. Surely, just to grant us visa has become a problem, and we continue having a Minister for Foreign Affairs. I think we must stamp our foot down, Madam Speaker, and demand better from our Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And to our colleagues in South Africa, it is extremely shameful what they are doing to the rest of the rest of a continent, especially bearing in mind the contribution that the entire Africa as a continent made to help South Africa when they were going through their difficult time. What they are doing to even citizens of countries like Nigeria who paid and gave money to their movement and their struggle for change in South Africa. And in return, what they are paying back is killing their citizens and cheering as if they've lost their minds. It's unfortunate. We demand better from Foreign Affairs. We shall be saying more and demanding more from our own Foreign Affairs when that motion that Senator Wetangula has promised comes to this House, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Yes, just as you have rightly put it, our own orders do not really stop us from discussing, but it allows that we discuss upon a substantive motion. So members are at liberty to bring a substantive motion, and they are able then to mention or personal conduct of anybody that they wish to. Senator Kilonzo Mutulia Jr.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and Dr. Alice Milgo for this statement. Just like Senator Wetangula, I thought that I would raise this issue. I tweeted about it. I'm extremely disappointed to be a Kenyan for many reasons. In fact, I had a quarrel with Senator Abdullahi because he shared a very, very, very extremely bad video of somebody being burned alive. And forgive me for saying this, but I think we Africans are so primitive. The more educated we are, the more primitive we become. Because the video that Senator Abdullahi shared and another one,
Senator Mbogo George Achilo Yako. On the
Thank
point
you,
of order.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I feel very offended. Is the distinguished Senator of Makueni in order to include Kenyans among the primitive people of South Africa? If South Africans are primitive and they are killing people the way they are killing, is he in order to have Kenya included in that record? Because Kenya is in Africa. We Africans are not collectively primitive. Let us call out and single out the primitive ones and say so without including our good nation, Madam Speaker.
Senator Mutula.
I didn't want to go there because we Kenyans have killed others and we have killed our own in the same manner South Africans are killing others. But to satisfy Senator Ochilo Ayako, let me restrict to Africans. But if you want me to give you instances of Kenyans, I will. We behave the same. Madam Speaker, what disappoints me is this. One, Senator Cheriot is right. When the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was called to make a statement about this, they said, we are observing. What in the world is the minister, cabinet secretary, in charge of foreign affairs observing? Is she observing the videos we are observing? Is she taking notes about something? Does she know something that we do not know? Because Kenyans in South Africa want to hear the voice of the government insofar as the security is concerned. Yes.
Information.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senator Mutula was still, the minister even in her statement thanked the government of South Africa for doing what they were doing without saying what it is she was thanking them for.
Madam Speaker, you can understand why all of us are infuriated. The contradiction about the statement that Senator Wetangula is referring to is because the distress calls that we are receiving through social media shows that the Kenyans in South Africa are unsafe. The second thing is that Africa has stood very firm, and they have said to South Africans that if you want to go to South Africa and live like South African and live like monkeys, go and live there, but leave our countries and your investments. And that is why, I mean, you must laud the Nigerians for being proactive, even in a wrong way, but being proactive by sending a message. MTN, their biggest investment, largest, is in Nigeria. They send them packing. We have not made a statement. We are quiet. We are watching. The government has said nothing. We are consuming their goods. We are consuming DSTV. When it came to release Mandela, I remember singing the song, Release, Release, Release Mandela. All of us were up in arms against what was going on in South Africa. But the government of Kenya and the President of the Republic, because these are his appointees, have let down Kenyans, and we must tell them as such. Madam Speaker, the primary interest, and Kenyans have gone to South Africa for many reasons. Kenyans have gone to South Africa for studies. Kenyans have gone to South Africa as expatriates. Kenyans have gone to South Africa for tourism. Yet, Madam Speaker, the South Africans, those South Africans can carry spears and spear their fellow Africans. Even the statement by Malema, the leader of economic EFF, was not strong enough. He pleaded with them in a manner to suggest as if he was trying to persuade them that brothers and sisters, don't do this. He should have said, arrest these people. Because what they are doing is against international law. What they have done is mass killing under the ICC statute. We must demand from the nations of the world that the actions visited upon Africans are crimes against humanity. And if South Africans cannot punish, like is stipulated in the ICC statutes, then cases must commence against the powers that be in South Africa for crimes against humanity under the Rome Statute. What they have done is wrong and must be condemned. If one South African died in Kenya on the streets for whatever reason, they will be held to pay. We will be putting our tails in between our legs and groveling and walking around and making all sorts of statements. So, Madam Speaker, I support the proposal. And there is the people who suggest that the Senate should be given the mandate of vetting these cabinet secretaries so that we get the power to censure them. Madam Speaker, is now 2 weeks. Parliament is quiet. Parliament is completely quiet. We have not summoned the CS. We have not summoned anybody about the question, very fundamental question, of the security not only of Kenyans, but security of Africans. But I want to say that Kenya must stand with nations of Africa and say we stand with Nigerians, we stand with Ghanaians, we stand with every person who thinks that the South Africans have behaved badly, and we condemn their action, close the embassy for 2 days, and see what happens. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Noting that we are past our statement hour, I would reduce that to we make at least 4 minutes per person, per senator. Senator Cherargei Samson. 4 minutes.
The mic. Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank Senator Milko, Dr. Milko, for this statement. I think it has come to the shock of not only Africa but the world that xenophobic attacks continue to happen in South Africa unabated. And it is very unfortunate that some of the people who have suffered in terms of loss of property and lives come from Kenya, and we have been monitoring these events as the committee in charge of human rights in this Senate. We want to commit on behalf of the committee that we'll follow this matter to conclusion. It is so sad that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is very silent on this matter. They have not even done anything to show even anger and aggression towards these things that happen. But it's so sad that Africans, we are attacking one another. It is very sad when you look at South Africa, which we are proud of, that the independence and freedom that our South Africans enjoy today, Madam Speaker, is because of the support across the African countries. So when you see South Africans and other people who are attacking other Africans because of immigration issues, because of job losses in their country, it is so sad. And South Africa as a country that was assisted not only by Africans, by the world. It is very unfortunate, and I don't think, Madam Speaker, that the late President Mandela envisaged a situation where Africans would start attacking each other. So we look into this matter, and we hope the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Minister in charge of Foreign Affairs, this is not the first time that these issues surrounding the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I remember when we invited her to appear before our committee on the issues of even treaties, the amendment on treaties and ratification, where we wanted Senate to be part of a process, she decided to snub us. So it is not the lethargy and moribancy that is happening in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is so sad. And I hope when she will appear before this committee and before the Senate as a whole, she will be able to tell us what intervention she has done as a ministry to punish or even use either hard law or soft law or even international law, because what is happening, as my colleague Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. said, this law attracts even the offenses under the ICC Act. So we need South Africans to come back to their senses, stop attacking your fellow Africans. We are one nation, we are one people, as the famous song by Bob Marley, that we are one people and one nation and one race. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Mbogo George Ochilo yako.
Oh, thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it's very difficult to talk politely or kindly about the behavior of South African people and South African leadership. In fact, in my view, the people and the leadership are criminals. So I do not know how to go about the standing orders that you indicated, standing order number 96. These people are criminals in their leadership and in their followership, and they have committed crimes against humanity. There are three things that need to be looked at urgently. What is our government doing to evacuate and protect the property of Kenyan victims who are in South Africa. If our government is doing nothing, then the people charged with the responsibility of doing something are also abetting and aiding criminals to continue killing Kenyans. So by extension, the Foreign Affairs Ministry is also aiding and abetting crime against Kenyans committed on foreign soil. Number two, Madam Speaker, what is Kenyan leadership doing to provide travel advisory to any person who might be thinking of going to South Africa? Now that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is doing nothing and praising the government of South Africa for continuing to commit crimes against Kenyans and other Africans, what are they doing to warn anybody not to go to South Africa for any reason until further notice? If they are not doing that, and any Kenyan continues going to South Africa and gets hurt because there is no help, again, that would be aiding and abetting and even laying further entrapment to Kenyans who might want to go to South Africa. I recently wanted to go to South Africa with a few relatives for treatment, but I do not want to die, so I'm not going there. I've decided to advise myself not to go there. If I am to die or any of my relatives is to die, let that death be here in Kenya or somewhere where the government can reach out for me and bring me home. Thirdly, Madam Speaker, dealing with the crime must be done in such a manner that you hold the criminals responsible. You must ensure that those who are responsible for the crime are held accountable or responsible for the crime they have committed, and that process must be through a legally known process. You have heard Senator Kilonzo indicate that we have the ICC, and since South Africa is officially and unofficially killing Africans, including Kenyans, what is our government, together with other governments of goodwill, doing to ensure that the leadership of South Africa, starting with the President Ramaphosa and other people, are taken to ICC so that they are called out there if they are unable to prosecute the criminals who have killed Africans and Kenyans, and if they are unable to put in place mechanism of giving back property and reinstating or reinstituting the property that have been damaged that belongs to Kenya.
Senator Musuruve, what clarification are you seeking? What does Senator Ochilo have?
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. I would like Senator Ochilo Ayako to actually clarify. I seem to be lost that South Africans are officially killing blacks. Kindly, I would like some clarification on it.
Thank you, Dr. Museruve. If you watch news, South African police people are watching and saying that, you know, these foreigners are intruding. South African leadership are pleading with the criminals not to continue killing Kenyans, instead of doing the rightful thing, which is to apprehend criminals, protect everybody in South Africa visiting or a resident, and also defend property. They are watching and they are encouraging those criminals to go about destroying life and property. So South Africa is officially, in my view, a criminal state. It's a failed state. And lastly, Madam Speaker, as a nation, we should think strategically. What people are talking about the importance of South Africa, the only important person there is no longer there. In fact, he foresaw this bad behavior and died before they started it. Mandela is the only South African who should be remembered. The rest are criminals. So we as a country should think of how to make Kenya strategically important to other continents, so that nobody travels to South Africa. If you want to get to Africa, come to Nairobi, come to Mombasa, get to Kampala, ignore South Africa. I think they do not understand what it means to be oppressed, And I would like to hear people who are planning the strategy of this nation. How do we rebuild Kenya and East Africa so that Africans do not go south the way South African has gone south? In fact, they have gone south and they have failed miserably. We do not need to go back to that place. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Halake Abshiro Soka.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the statement by my colleague, Senator Milgo, which is very timely, and to condemn in the strongest terms possible the xenophobic attacks against other Africans, and especially my fellow Kenyans in South Africa. Madam Speaker, I fail to understand how any African is actually called a foreigner in an African country. When South Africa was fighting for its independence, Kenya and other African countries rallied behind, you know, the ANC and Nelson Mandela, and ensured that South Africans got independence. And then the South Africans turn around then to call other Africans who have fought alongside them for, fought apartheid, calling them, you know, foreigners and therefore undesirable elements in their country. Madam Speaker, the legacy of Nelson Mandela has been rubbished by the South Africans, which legacy was Ubuntu, meaning that we are brothers, our brothers' keepers. Madam Speaker, I don't know what the experience of the Pan-African parliamentarians has been, but I suspect that the Commonwealth parliamentarians, and we have Dr. Daktari here to tell us, because I'm told even the, Dr. Abdullahi, I'm sorry. My apologies, my brother. I'm told even the parliamentarians going for the Pan-African Parliament are not saved from these kinds of discrimination against Africans, and I'm sure he can attest to that. I think it's about time somebody did something. I know you've guided us with regards to naming presidents and others, but we see lack of goodwill on the part of the South African government to deal with this issue. This issue has been there. It peaked in 2008, again peaked in 2015, and now we are here. So there's definitely lack of goodwill to deal with this issue once and for all. Madam Speaker, coming to our own foreign policy, if there's any that exists, it's very unclear and confusing as to how we deal with our consular issues, especially when it comes to the lives and welfare of Kenyans abroad. And we are very saddened to know that even countries like Nigeria were very decisive. The minute the xenophobic attacks happened, the Nigerian government summoned the South African High Commissioner immediately, demanded certain accountabilities from them. They airlifted their nationals. None of that happened for us here. Does it mean that Kenyans abroad are on their own, even though we continue to give millions of shillings to our foreign service? And we need to know, what is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs doing for Kenyans abroad, especially in the face of such attacks as xenophobic attacks in Southern Africa? Madam Speaker, the South African government does not keep data on xenophobic attacks, but other xenophobic watch institutions and instruments exist, and they show a very disturbing trend of rising cases of xenophobic attacks across the board, mostly in the urban centers, but now also going down to other areas. So we need to first of all make sure that we get certain answers from our own foreign service, from our own Ministry of Foreign Affairs, what is being done for Kenyans abroad. Our consular services are wanting, but also just in terms of foreign policy with regards to the safety of Kenyans abroad. Madam Speaker, I think it's about time certain economic sanctions or other sanctions are levied on the South African government to make sure that they now wake up and do something about this attack. It's not on for this to be protracted and to be going on for many, many, many years, and yet nothing is being done. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, and again,
Your time is up. Senator Inima Gertrude Musuruve.
Madam Speaker, thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, that Senator Dr. Milgo has come up with a good statement, and I commend her for the statement. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, that the issue of xenophobia is an issue that should not be taken lightly, simply because persons who are, have that attitude towards others, strangers, and other known people are actually colors, and they go out of their way to do anything to express, their anger. And the case of South Africa, Madam Speaker, I see people who seem to be so angry, and they're not able to fight the initial source of what they're going through, the poverty, the lack of employment and all that. And so I see an issue of displaced aggression, where the blacks are not able to fight the Dutch, and so they decide now to fight the Africans. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, this is something that leaders of the world should globally discuss and see how to help the situation, because there are many Africans in South Africa from different countries, and their right to life is important. Their right to protecting their properties is important. Like, for instance, Madam Speaker, even those Africans, Kenyans who are in South Africa, this nation has a right to protect them, to protect their lives, to protect their security, to even give them social protection, because it is a constitutional requirement that the state must give protection to its citizens, even those who are not able to protect themselves. So as we have a duty as Kenyans to see how to engage, in the issue, even politically, so that people live safely. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, that when it comes to the issue of xenophobia, it needs really a lot of understanding, and it needs for, leaders to really come out and see how to arrest the situation. Because this is something that seems to be inherent in South Africans, that they are bitter, they are poor, and all that, but they ought to know that their poverty is not caused by their fellow Africans. And I want to also urge the ministry concerned to see in which parts of South Africa do we have this xenophobia going on. Is it pockets of South Africa or the entire parts of South Africa? And if there are pockets of South Africa, then the Kenyans who are there can be relocated to other parts of South Africa, because they're also earning a living, and everyone has a right to earn a living in any part of this world, Madam Speaker. So I want to say that the issue that maybe there's lack of delivery of services to South Africans has nothing to do with the Africans who are living there. And I'm really empathic. I really empathize with the Africans who are there, because some of them have lived there for so many years. They have taken loans, they are established, they have property there, they have children there that are even going to school. And this now takes us to another level, that even families are affected, and
your time is up, Senator Musuruve. Senator Ali Abdullahi, not there. Senator Langat Christopher.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for also giving me this opportunity. And first, you'll allow me to alert your share that there are students in the gallery and the chairs, and you will welcome them. So may I come to this?
Order, Senator, maybe you can take your seat. I first welcome them, then you'll have a chance to. Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the public gallery this afternoon of visiting students and teachers from St. Ulrich Secondary School, Nakuru County. In our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to them, and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. Senator Langat, now you can appropriately welcome them.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to, before I come to this, may I also join you in welcoming the students from Nakuru. On behalf of Senator Susan, who is my neighbor, she is very busy somewhere. And I want to say they are welcome. I have a strong passion to do with Nakuru, Madam Speaker, because I was a student one time in Menengai High School. And I want to say Nakuru County is a great county, and I would like to welcome them. So, Madam Speaker, I want to say that what is happening in South Africa should be condemned with the strongest terms possible. I would say it is primitive, it is Neanderthal and barbaric. It is actually a reflection of our continent in a very negative way all over the world. Currently, all over the world, we are actually getting to globalization. Every country is welcoming other countries because that is the only way that will demonstrate to the whole world that we are civilized and we are going forward. In fact, I want to say that when we see over the social media, I was seeing a lady being molested in the streets, being stripped naked, beaten to death. It is totally inhuman. Yesterday, I received calls from some of my friends from South Africa, 4 of them actually, who have got businesses in South Africa. And while I was worried about their businesses, they were telling me that one they closed down 2 weeks ago. And our country should be worried about their lives. They were even unable to go to the airport to catch the planes to come back home. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, that the committee in this House that is in charge of foreign affairs should actually wake up from what they are doing and invite this particular CS who is sleeping on a job to come and tell us what steps she has taken to save our people in South Africa. I want to say that the fact that she is silent in what is happening to our people in South Africa is one way of actually proving to this particular House that she is doing completely nothing in her office. So I want to say that particular committee should come up seriously, invite this particular lady as a matter of urgency, even to Kitui next week. And if possible, we should have a committee of the whole so that we actually make sure that this particular lady, who is the CS Minister of Foreign Affairs, should do something to save the Kenyans that are in South Africa. Imagine they are no longer worried about their businesses. They are worried about their lives. It is very interesting. So I want to call upon the committee responsible to this, Madam Speaker, to take action as soon as possible. And I want to congratulate Madam Senator Milko for actually coming up with this particular very strong statement. It is timely at this particular moment. So I want to say thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity, and I support this particular statement.
Senator Masitsa Naomi Shionga.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support the statement by Senator Dr. Milko on this act that is happening in South Africa. Madam Speaker, what is happening in South Africa is barbaric. It's primitive, it's uncivilized, it should be condemned in the strongest terms possible. Madam Speaker, just like any other country in Africa that is hosting people in its own country, South Africa, many countries are hosting its citizens in their countries, possibly for social purposes, maybe through education, maybe investment, marriage, or any other. And it is very, I can say it's very primitive when you see the act that my colleagues are describing and what we have seen on social media and what we have seen over other media. Xenophobic attacks that has fried relationship among neighboring countries or a nation, it's really worrying. And I can say for free that South Africa needs to be taught a lesson if it has never learned from its stand or what it is doing currently. Who said that citizens of South Africa are special? Who said that citizens of South Africa, somebody somewhere is stealing their jobs? who said that South Africa is special over other countries in Africa, that they can involve themselves in doing what they are doing. There are people who are touring South Africa, and they are making the economy grow. There are people who have gone for education in South Africa, and they are making their country economically grow. There are people who have gone in South Africa for so many things, and they are making the economy grow. Why am I repeating the word economically South Africa is growing from other countries? It's because it has been witnessed that South Africa is doing well since they got independent. And if at all they are turning against countries, and especially our own citizens in Kenya, South Africa Act currently on xenophobic attacks needs to be condemned. The cases that are happening there, they are against humanity. Therefore, as a legislature, the Minister for Foreign Affairs in Kenya needs to be summoned. Just as my colleagues have said, she's sleeping on her job. She needs to come forward, explain to Kenyans what she's taking, especially for her own country, and as a responsibility in her token, what she's doing. Give a statement to this House, give a statement to Kenyans, and make Kenyans comfortable where they are, because we are not comfortable. We are worried. And we have a minister who is supposed and who has advisors to give him advice on what is happening currently. Madam Speaker, the discrimination in South Africa, it is an open chapter when it comes to the future of other countrymen. We celebrated South Africa, we celebrated when it got its independence. Right now, they have turned against us. I can say, much that has been said, we need to bring a motion, we need to discuss South Africa, we need even to stop its diplomatic relations until we get an explanation.
Your time is up, Senator Naomi. And finally, we have Senator Maura Isaac.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support this statement from Senator Dr. Milgo Alice, our Vice Chairman of Labor and Social Welfare. I think it is timely coming from her, because certainly this is about migration, it's about welfare, all the issues that's under the ambit of this committee. But most importantly, it's about foreign relations. And South Africa is a great country, Mzansi, as we call it. I was very privileged to be a student there at Nelson Mandela University. And when I went there because of the name Mandela. I looked forward to what he represents. And many people across the world look up to this great icon. He's the only person who has statues in cities such as London. I mean, I have not seen any other African who has been honored and celebrated like him. And he is really the heart and the soul of South Africa. But after he left public service, and of course after he left us, South Africa has been on a decline, sincerely so. It's been a democracy that many people have been looking up to, a country that has got 11 official languages, and you don't see a lot of ethnic tensions around it. Very well developed, in fact, more than some of the countries in Eastern Europe. It is, for a long time, been the first African economy until Nigeria took over. And because of that, the Rainbow Nation has got people of different orientations. They are colored people who you wouldn't tell really where they come from. White people, of course, the Africans, the British South Africans, and of course our fellow Africans. But South Africa also, because of that pride and development, has got a statement that really captures this xenophobia. It is RSA versus ROA. Republic of South Africa against the rest of Africa. And they seem to think largely that they are kind of a little bit special than the fellow Africans. These young millennials, people who have found the economic boom and success of South Africa, do not seem to remember that it is the other African countries that were able to stand up with the ANC when they were fighting for liberation against apartheid. It is other African countries that were able to be the training grounds for Mkhonto Wesinzwe, you know, the military arm that Nelson Mandela and other people like O.R. Tambo and Albert Lutuli started. It is these countries like Tanzania that provided bases where these great Africans from South Africa were able to be hosted. So much so that if you look at the flag of South Africa, it is just actually a replica of Tanzania apart from the gold strip there. And also the song. It is very much like South Africa, like Tanzania, Mungu Ibariki Afrika. And then, of course, that aspect of the African song that for the Boer nation. So South Africa really owes a lot to Africans. In fact, when Nelson Mandela was released from prison, he came to Kenya and he wanted to meet Dedat Kimathi or the wife. I mean, because Mau Mau, you know, liberation struggle inspired people in South Africa. But be that as it may, that's what happens. If parents struggle, when the children become mature, they start thinking that they are spoiled kids, they are rich people's kids. That's what I see in South Africa. People who are lazy, people who do not want to imagine that their own economic success is also predicated upon the contribution of other nations. And that is why you see, I mean, even with the introduction of the broad-based economic
Your time is up, Senator Mwaura. So much for standing statements under Standing Order 47.1. We therefore move to the statements under 48.1. Senator Mwaura.
Madam Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order number 48.1, I rise to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Health concerning the stalled construction of the Goto Level 4 Hospital in Kiambu County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, explain reasons why construction of the Goto Level 4 Hospital has stalled despite sufficient budgetary allocation for the project for the financial year 2014-2015. 2, state measures taken by the Kiambu County government to revive the construction of the hospital. 3, explain whether due diligence was done and the necessary procurement laws adhered to by the Kiambu County government in awarding Seremala Construction Company the tender to construct the hospital. And 4, explain mechanisms put in place to ensure provision of health services to the people of Kikuyu Ward and Kiambu County at large is not jeopardized by the stalled construction of the Goto Level 4 Hospital.
I will allow very little comment on this because we still have another 2 statements and still have motions in the order paper. Senator Musuruve, 3 minutes.
Statement. And Madam Speaker, it's an important statement because the issue of health is pertinent in this country. Health is one of the big 4 goals. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, that when you're talking of level 4 hospital, it is able to serve cases that cannot be served at level 2 and level 3 hospitals. So you find that patients who need, complicated surgeries at, health centers and all that are supposed to be taken to level 4. And Madam Speaker, I want to say that it is unfortunate that if this hospital was actually procured, if services were procured to construct the hospital and it is sold, there's need for an audit to be done to find out how much was allocated for that hospital. And if money was allocated for that hospital, was the money used prudently, Madam Speaker? This is because we represent the counties and the interests of the counties, and it is the business of the Senate to really find out and interrogate and see to it that the money that went to the counties did exactly what it was supposed to do so that services are deliverable to Kenyans. Madam Speaker, I want to say that Senator Mwaura has come up with a good statement that should not really just go like that. The committee that is assigned to investigate this should investigate this issue up to the very end for the purpose and the sake of Kenyans, Madam Speaker. We have been talking about money going to the counties. We have been talking about a lot of money going to the counties, but we need to find out, even the money that goes to the counties, is the money really doing what it is intended to do? Is it doing the purposes for what it is intended in the counties, Madam Speaker? Thank you for the opportunity.
Senator Kibiru Charles Robinson, 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I think I would want to use my 3 minutes just to say that as a country, I think we are becoming jokers. When we are spending so much money in the medical equipment scheme, which was a bone of contention in the mediation for DORA, I think, and then we have issues like yesterday we are discussing about a hospital, a level 4 hospital, that has stopped operations in Kitui. Today we are talking about a hospital in Kiambu that has stopped. And at the same time, the policymakers, the top leadership of this country is telling us about universal health care. Are we talking without walking the talk? Madam Speaker, I think the committee that will take up this issue, and I hope this time the Committee of Health, or whatever committee it will be, should be able to take this issue of health matters a bit seriously. They need to come up with a matrix that can be discussed by this House, so that we know which hospitals are stored because construction has not gone on, which hospitals are not operational optimally or efficiently or not giving services as required in the counties, so that, Madam Speaker, we address this issue as a Senate, as protectors of the county, or as protectors of devolution, and ask ourselves, what is the way out? It's unfortunate that every other day we are talking about doctors on strike, nurses on strike, threats here about health issues. Whereas one of the Agenda 4 is to make us healthier. So, Madam Speaker, I urge the committee that we take up this issue. Please give us statistics in this country on the way forward, so that we can come up on a way forward on how to deal with this issue of hospitals. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Kimani Wamatangi, you have an intervention?
Yes, Madam Speaker, I was just seeking your attention to see if I could just ride on that statement. Sorry, Madam Speaker, it came when I was slightly out, and it has been brought by Senator Mora. And as you know, Senator Mora is not only a senator from Kiambu County, but he's one of the people who have been actively involved in trying to ensure that things go correctly within the county. And Madam Speaker, if you allow me, I just wanted to write on that statement, because the matter of this hospital is a matter that has come up severally, not only in the County Assembly of Kiambu, but within the public domain, Madam Speaker. And I wanted to, alongside the issues that Senator Mora has raised, Madam Speaker, to ask if the committee that this statement has been assigned to, the Committee on Health, Madam Speaker, could further inquire on other extra issues on this level 4 hospital, Madam Speaker. This hospital had been allocated enough funds to build it upwards to about 6 levels. 6 levels, I mean 6 floors. Madam Speaker, there has been allegations in the county government that when the new regime came in, they decided to scale down that project in spite of money having been allocated, but without, Madam Speaker, explaining whether the reallocation has been done and that money sent elsewhere, or what has happened, because the contract was signed by the same contractor at the time, Madam Speaker, when the scope of works were the same. So the scope of capture by the committee should extend, Madam Speaker, to find out, now that the contract was signed, with 6 levels of the hospital to be built, what happened now that it was scaled downwards, Madam Speaker? And lastly, let me join my colleagues, Madam Speaker, in lamenting the state of health, and especially when you find a county government coming into place and not taking matters health seriously, and especially in an area like Dogoto. Madam Speaker, coming from Kiambu, it is a serious case within this area. This is a heavily populated place. Madam Speaker, I dare say within the suburbs of Kiambu County, probably this is the third most and heavily or densely populated areas, Madam Speaker. And the loop side of it is that the people who densely populate this place are people of low means. They're not the rich. And so if you have a hospital in that area that is stalled and there was public participation where the residents said this is what we want, Madam Speaker, this is 4 years down the line. I think this is the 5th year down the line, Madam Speaker, since that project. I just wanted to say that this is a matter of concern to the people of Kiambu. We will appreciate, Madam Speaker, if this matter can be expedited quickly and cover the entire scope, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Senator Milgo Alice.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this chance to support Senator Dr. Mwaura for this important statement on stall construction of Tokoto Level 4 Hospital. Madam Speaker, I think issues of health facilities all over the country actually have challenges. It is quite unfortunate, particularly for this one, bearing in mind that there was a budgetary allocation given to this particular facility, and yet very many years down the line, it is not complete. This morning, I got an opportunity, Madam Speaker, to attend a meeting on population development. And I did realize that at the Cairo 1994 conference actually stressed, and one of the major resolutions was on universal health care. And very soon, a very big meeting will be held in our country on the same to take stock of what has taken place. And in this case, we did realize that there are major challenges that have affected our hospitals, particularly level 4 hospitals, right across the country. And the major issues are issues of corruption, Madam Speaker, financial mismanagement, issues of wrong procurement, and in any case, our President, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, has actually taken up this, being one of his Agenda 4. He took up to actually ensure that he fights corruption, and I'm sure this committee that is going to undertake to look at this particular statement should really go into depth to actually find out where the money that was allocated to this particular facility went to, because I think people of this particular area are not actually getting value for their money. Otherwise, this is a very important statement, and I urge this committee to go into the details, or rather to the depth of this. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
With no more requests to contribute, this statement automatically goes to the relevant committee on health. Next statement is by Senator Naomi Shionga.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to raise my statement. Pursuant to Standing Order 48.1, I raise to seek a statement from the Standing Committee on Land, Environment and Natural Resources on the hippos roaming the villages, destroying crops and livestock in Mumias West, Sub-County, Kakamega County. In the statement, the committee should, 1, state why no action has been taken to keep these dangerous animals away from the citizens. 2, table the number of livestock attacked by those hippos for the last 2 years and appropriate compensation measures for the same. 3, state the extent of destruction caused by the hippos on crops across Mumias West and other neighboring sub-counties. 4, explain why Kakamega Forest National Reserve have not provided appropriate solution, yet the issue falls under their mandate. And lastly, 4, table evidence, if any, that the relevant authority has taken to educate public on how to respond when these dangerous animals are sighted within their farms and homestead. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
On this one, I will again allow very brief comments. Senator Inima Gertrude Musuruve. Still 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I'll be quite brief. And Madam Speaker, I want to commend Senator Shionga for coming up with this statement. And Madam Speaker, I lived in Mumias some years back in 1995, around there, when I was a high school teacher at St. Angela School for the Deaf, and also Mumias Secondary School for, regular school. And during the time I lived there, Madam Speaker, I did not experience hippos moving around. What I experienced much was monkeys, they're all over. And I want to say that if indeed hippos are now invading Mumias East, there's need for investigation and find out what was the cause of the hippos invading Mumias, and this issue then ought to be brought to bay. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Senators, we are through with the statements. Of course, that statement goes to the relevant committee, and we therefore move to the next order.
Order number 8, motion, planting of trees along major infrastructure projects in the country.
This is a resumption of debate from yesterday's debate. Senator Ndwiga Peter Njeru.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to first of all, thank Senator Kibiro for introducing this bill. Those of us, Madam Speaker, who knew how this country was immediately after independence, will know how beautiful our roads were, particularly roads approaching major towns. Madam Speaker, we all remember nostalgia, that the acacia tree was famous throughout the country because that was the trademark. As we entered Nakuru, the acacia trees lining both sides of the road, beautiful with a beautiful canopy, beautiful spectacle. That is what it was. As you entered Embu town, Madam Speaker, it was all, and also throughout Embu town, all the way up to the middle of that road to Ant Meru. Beautiful roads by the roadside. Madam Speaker, this is what we need. This is what we need to, first of all, to safeguard the erosion on our roads, so that erosion does not spoil the roads that we are constructing. So we need to have trees planted throughout highways, on all highways in the Republic. Madam Speaker, it's also very important for us to plant these trees, because trees are the lungs of most of our towns. And our towns, Madam Speaker, of late, we have seen very serious, very serious cutting of trees, very old trees. Some trees which are old as colonial days have been cut in recent times, Madam Speaker, so that most of our towns, despite the pollutions that we produce in those towns, we have there's no way of absorbing the carbon dioxide that we produce and carbon monoxide. In most of these places, these towns, it's just like having a body without lungs. The importance of planting trees along highways, Madam Speaker, is also similarly the same effect, that as we drive along and emit carbon monoxide, that these trees will absorb, will become the lungs that will absorb all the monoxide that will be produced by the vehicles on our highways. On our highways. So, Madam Speaker, it's absolutely important that apart from the aesthetic beauty of our trees, that our trees will have the added benefits of purification of our air, the environmental benefits, I think supersedes all other benefits of trees. So it's absolutely important that all contractors, and I think I would be happy to see, and I want to, as I support the motion, I would want to support that as contractors are given contracts to construct roads, one of the requirements, major requirements, is that where they are doing, because the place they are doing campions and so forth to prevent soil erosion, but the requirements, but planting of trees must be made a requirement, mandatory requirement. In fact, and whatever amount that they are paying, that the retention fund is retained until the trees are grown, so that they take care of the trees until they are fully developed. That is what we would like to see in this country, Madam Speaker, because that will go a long way in assisting in improving our environment, first and foremost, and secondly, also the beauty. Madam Speaker, for those of us that most of us have traveled outside this country, in major cities throughout the world, you will have noticed that one of the key things that they do without fail is planting trees on the highways. That's one of the cardinal things that you see everywhere, Madam Speaker. And it is for that reason, one, the beauty, and two, the environmental aspects of trees. And with those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I beg to support.
Senator Kimani Wamatangi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support the motion in the backdrop of the fact that, to begin with, I'm the chairperson of the Committee on Roads and Transport and Infrastructure, Madam Speaker. And part of what we have been dealing with in examination and inspection of projects that have been carried out by government in the last 7 years since our elections in 2013, Madam Speaker. And when I say that, not to forget first to laud government, because to a larger extent, since the days of Mwai Kibaki, the former president, this country has experienced a real growth, Madam Speaker, an expansion of a lot of infrastructure projects, Madam Speaker, without having to name them. But largely, if we look at our highways sections, our roads, Madam Speaker, airport and the ports and other projects, Madam Speaker, yes, that fact is acknowledged. I want to support what the motion that has been brought by Senator Kibiru, Madam Speaker, because it is thoughtful. Indeed, by international standards, almost every project, infrastructure project of the magnitude, for example, of the bypasses, of the expansion of the roads that we are doing, they are awarded with a condition, Madam Speaker, that as a way of preservation from erosion, Madam Speaker, to conserve the topography of the soil, Madam Speaker, and where excavation has occurred, Madam Speaker. The condition in award of such contracts is that there has to be restoration, Madam Speaker, of forests, of growth, and that is why I support this motion, Madam Speaker. If you look casually or inspect at any project that we have carried out, and it would be good to start, for example, with a project that the Southern Bypass from Mombasa Road, Madam Speaker, all the way up to Kikuyu. It passes through a forest itself. But the question one would want to ask is, when they cut through that forest, removed so many trees, how many were planted back? And the answer is probably none, Madam Speaker. If you look at, for example, a project like the Eastern Bypass, same story. What has been happening, Madam Speaker, in our case is that that is taken so casually that a mere planting of some grass in patches. And I want to report, Madam Speaker, that my committee recently undertook a visit to inspect the construction of SGR, Madam Speaker. Indeed, with the permission, Madam Speaker, in your county, specifically in the areas of Kajiado. And one of the conditions is that because you have built huge embankments and retainer walls, how will you restore the soil and guard it from erosion? And what has been happening is you find that other than planting trees and grass and other foliage, what they do is they build concrete along those walls and channel them to drain down water. Now, what that in effect does, Madam Speaker, is for all environmental advantages or benefits that were being accrued by that community before, all those benefits are lost. The irony of it all, Madam Speaker, is this, that sometimes it looks to us that once you cut down trees, for example, in the process of that construction, it looks like the loss is only because those trees have been lost. But indeed, the cumulative, the ripple down effect of that deforestation is so huge, Madam Speaker, such that you can arguably argue that even those communities that are there will suffer from many other maladies, including diseases, Madam Speaker. Because in an area where you build a road that expands probably as the way we want to expand Mombasa Road and the expressway all the way up to Mau Summit, Madam Speaker, you're covering a whole corridor, probably of more than 60 to 70 feet, sometimes even 100 feet. That running to 200 kilometers, Madam Speaker. And then we would be asking ourselves, how much of rainfall are we going to lose in the entire of that stretch? Once you lose rainfall, what else do you lose on top of that? You will lose good health, Madam Speaker. Because if you have a community around those areas where there is no water, you have poor health, Madam Speaker. You lose even tourism, Madam Speaker. In areas like, for example, like in those areas of Kajiado through the park where we are building the SGR, Madam Speaker, if there is no reforestation, then what happens to the wildlife that is in the whole of that area? You have a problem. And the other day, Madam Speaker, I was watching as our TV screens were screening giraffes, Madam Speaker, dying out of drought in our areas around Masabit and those kind of areas, Madam Speaker. And it is acknowledgeable. We need to agree, Madam Speaker, that if we are going to attain the standards that we seek to attain, and I believe when we are benchmarking, when our government conceptualizes these projects, Madam Speaker, they do so looking at other best practices and standards internationally. If one pays a visit, Madam Speaker, the other day through some committee activities, I happen to have been in Malaysia. If you drive from the airport in a very expansive road, Madam Speaker, all the way to Kuala Lumpur, you will be surprised that you think that you are driving in through a plantation of mangroves and palm trees, Madam Speaker, all the way, and the extent to which that government goes to preserve. Indeed, I was surprised, Madam Speaker, that even road infrastructure itself around such construction, for example, construction of billboards around those roads, it is mandatory that if you're putting up a billboard by that roadside, it has got to be higher than the trees. There is no provision that you cut a tree to put up a billboard. Put up your billboard, it has got to be above the trees, people will see it there. That is how seriously they take their trees, or the plants around infrastructure projects, Madam Speaker. And that's why, unless we agree that we want to have and develop such standards, Madam Speaker, then we cannot be able to get there. Madam Speaker, the last point I might want to then bring across in this discussion in support of the motion, Madam Speaker, is the laxity. It is the casualness that our officials who we entrust to make sure that that is part of what happens. And recently we have had a big problem, because Senator Kibiru has constrained, or rather he has defined this motion to the extent that it is during construction or development of those infrastructure projects, Madam Speaker. We have had a new concept of contracting foreign contractors to build up our projects with a model called EPC nowadays, whereby a foreign government or contractor will come, give a proposal that we want to build this road, we are going to build it to this expanse, they are going to design that road, they will fund that road themselves, build it, and get paid. Now, what happens in that kind of scenario, Madam Speaker, is this, that the standard is prescribed by the builder. The stopgap measures that are supposed there are prescribed by the same contractor. The remedies are also prescribed by that contractor. Indeed, at the final point of inspection, you will find that it is the same guy who will be calling the shots. And unless it is included from the first bit, and I would want to urge Senator Kibiru, even at a further point, look at the possibilities of including or see which laws would need to amend as a statute, Madam Speaker, or in a bill or an existing act that would require at conceptualization that this becomes a part of contracting, Madam Speaker. Then you will find that the problems you're having even in places like Mau will be understood. It will be understood that this country, that this government takes so seriously that the issue of preserving our trees. Let me finish by saying, Madam Speaker, I visited sometimes 2 years ago in a small village in Kitui, a place that is known to be dry, where there are no trees. And Madam Speaker, as I visited that place, I noticed a very unique thing. We entered one village after going through an entire, what one would describe as a desert. No trees, no green. And then all of a sudden, we came into a small village where it is all green and lush and water. So when I went there, I asked the people there, how come that in the midst of all this wilderness, we just come here and we find that this place is so green? I mean, what have you people done? And then the chief, the local chief there, told me that Senator Omatangi, one time, some times ago, we had a visitor in this village. That visitor came here and incentivized us and said, you chief, take your people, go take them around and let them plant trees. For every tree they plant, we are going to compensate them. And they took it as an initiative. After that, they started doing it for themselves. Madam Speaker, that now became an area or a center of attraction. That visitor, Madam Speaker, was the late Professor Wangari Maathai. When she visited that village, made a difference. That today you can go all over around that place, and I was told that the Honorable Nyiva Mwendo is indeed a neighbor there. And that place is you can't believe in Kitui. What I want to say, Madam Speaker, as I sit down is this, that if we take it seriously, if this is made part of our planning, if we make it part of policy, then this country will change. We are not going to be having the problem that we have right now, Madam Speaker, of having to go to courts, having to fight, having to engage in political contestation, Madam Speaker, to threaten each other just about our own livelihoods, because people do not think that it is their priority, Madam Speaker, to plant trees. So I want to laud Senator Kibiru for the initiative, for the good thoughts that he has had, Madam Speaker, on this. And indeed, trees are life. Let's plant trees, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Senator Mwangi Paul Gidiomi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute on this motion. Madam Speaker, this motion should have come long time ago. It is a very important motion for this country. Madam Speaker, you realize that our forest cover in Kenya is very small. We are now at 6%. Kenya is a large country. Madam Speaker, when one goes to countries like Sweden, Japan, Netherlands, one wonders what is happening in this country because the forest cover in, for example, Sweden is 66%. A country with less than 10 million people in terms of population. Kenya has only 6%. Madam Speaker, we need trees for various reasons. One is environment, Madam Speaker. The second one is trade, because we need timber. It is a shame, Madam Speaker, for this country, as big as it is, with the human resource it has, to be importing timber from Congo, to be importing timber from Tanzania, from importing timber from various other countries. We have the ability, we have the land, a lot of unused land in this country. The whole of northeastern province, most of eastern province, we have all that land that we can plant trees, Madam Speaker. But we choose not to do it. I think it should be mandatory. It should be a law. Today, I hope Senator Kebiro is going to turn this motion into law, so that everybody plants trees wherever they are. Because, Madam Speaker, it is important for people to know that trees can also be used for trade. Madam Speaker, if you have a lot of trees, say about 100 acres, you'll be making a lot of money. At the same time, you have improved the environment of this country. Madam Speaker, it is imperative to know that trees will make this country better than it is today. Trees will give us water. Today we cannot, we are normally in a lot of problems. You go to Masaida, Madam Speaker, when there is no rain, the place is very dry. You go to northeastern province, Madam Speaker, when there is no rain, the place is very dry and unproductive for the populace in this country. So, Madam Speaker, I urge Senator Kibilo to turn this motion into law, to do a bill to be debated to this House and the National Assembly, so that eventually it is given assent by the President and it becomes mandatory for every Kenyan with land to plant so many trees in perhaps every acre that one owns, Madam Speaker. This country would be better off. This country will have made big miles, big mileage to have forests, and forests where they should be. Madam Speaker, if you look at the Mau forest today, one wonders why government decided to take people to reside in the Mau forest. It was a very good forest to give this country big cubic meters of water. But now you find people are settled there. And they're not settled there because there's no land in this country where these people can be settled. We have a lot of idle land in this country. The land that is being used by Kenyans is a very small portion. And that is the reason why I would urge government to ensure that tree planting is not a luxury. It should be made mandatory, such that we have adequate trees to take care of those living in this country today and in posterity, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is, as a matter of fact, important to ensure that the areas that we call deserts or semi-deserts in this country have been provided with water, either from boreholes, from dams, or whichever way, to be able to grow trees so that we can grow trees in those places. And such that even when tourists come to Kenya, they see that Kenya has been taken care of by the residents of this country. Otherwise, today, Madam Speaker, it's a very big shame to find a country like Kenya with the workforce it has and cheap labor, find a country that doesn't have trees. One wonders what is happening. Is this part of the world or it is not part of the world? Because those other countries have planted adequate trees. Madam Speaker, with those few words, I support this motion.
Senator Inima Gertrude Musuruve.
Madam Speaker, thank you for giving me an opportunity to air my voice on this motion. Madam Speaker, I want to thank Senator Kibiru for coming up with this motion. And trees have varied reasons. They have economical reasons in terms of they can be used by carpenters, they can be used in very many ways. They also have spiritual benefits. They also have aesthetic value and so on. So, Madam Speaker, we cannot even forget the the aesthetic value that comes with trees. And I want to say, Madam Speaker, that planting trees along the infrastructure is very important. I was at Dubai at one point, and when I went there, all the way from the airport, you could see the aesthetic beauty of, the environment as you get in that comes from trees. And this is a place where water is hard to reach. But I tend to think, Madam Speaker, that in Dubai, they prioritize that they are going to actually plant trees, along infrastructure. So I want to say that naturally, trees act as purifiers to the environment. And it is important to have trees along infrastructure, especially along the roads. When you think of the pollution that really comes out as a result of the fumes from vehicles and so on, that pollution is has negative impacts, to human consumption. When you breathe air that is polluted, it has negative effects to the lungs. It has negative effects. Some of this air even causes cancer. And people who smoke heavily and those who even take in that polluted air are, on the same level. So, Madam Speaker, the fact that leaves are able to purify air, it is just prudent that this motion goes on and is implemented for the purpose of ensuring that our environments are safe. The air we breathe in, even as we are traveling, along our roads, is safe. And apart from this, we also see trees coming in handily, Madam Speaker, as wind barriers, and therefore reducing the amount of noise pollution. Madam Speaker, noise pollution has negative impact, especially on human beings. Now, sometimes even noise pollution can even cause deafness. When one is exposed to a lot of noise beyond the, the threshold, the hearing threshold, it is possible for deafness to occur. And sometimes it even causes, a lot of noise causes a lot of stress and mental disturbance that is not really even good for the passengers, the users of roads, the motorists, and the drivers as well. And Madam Speaker, I also want to bring out the importance of trees, when trees act as windbreakers. And when you're talking of windbreakers, in a situation where trees are planted along the roads, it is, they hold the soil, and when they hold the soil and there's heavy rain, chances are that soil erosion will not arise, because when soil erosion arises, it will have also an impact to the users of the road. This will also even cause accidents. Now, Madam Speaker, I want to say that we also need to look at the aesthetic value of planting trees along infrastructure places, because this has economic value for the area, because it even increases the value of the place by 20 to 30%. So that in a situation where someone wants to sell a property that is within an infrastructure that has greenness, then the value will go up. So I want to say that even when we are talking of trees, we have to put into consideration the issue of road safety. Madam Speaker, when trees are planted along the roads, it is possible for drivers to see, where the roads are ending from one point to another, and this can stop road accidents because the roads will be visible. And even when you're talking of the roads being visible, there's need to even paint the stems of the trees so that a driver is able to see that the road starts from one point, that is west to east. This can naturally act as a guide for safe driving. And why I'm saying this, Madam Speaker, there have been so many cases and incidents of, road accidents along roads, and sometimes it's because the drivers veer off the roads, and sometimes there are times also when some drivers who are reckless and drunk may not even be able to know where the road starts and ends. So the fact that trees are there, it will be visible for them to obviously see, in as much as that they are drunk, it will be possible for them to see that the road is the road clearly. And this would also stop the road carnage that we have. And Madam Speaker, in as much as I'm supporting this motion, I want to say that the county government and the national government can take this as their baby, can take this as their project. But even if they take this as their project, there's need for us to be cautious as a Senate, so that if this project goes to the county government or the national government, we have to ensure that if money is allocated for this project, the money is used wisely. And even, Madam Speaker, what I want to say that even this money, if the contractors paid to do this kind of job, to plant trees along infrastructure, they should not be paid up front. There are instances, Madam Speaker, when contractors are paid. I remember an incident where contractors were even paid, on a maize project. They were paid a lot of money. But even before the maize matured and all that, they had already been paid all the monies, and the project collapsed. Madam Speaker, in this case of planting trees, the project should not collapse. The contractors should be paid in staggered amounts, so that there's phase one to see deliverables. If they're deliverables, then the other batch is, given. If they're deliverables like that until there are indicators that, yes, these trees will not collapse, and we are going to have a change in environment. And Madam Speaker, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because we want to avoid a situation where a project would even be in the county government of planting trees, and a lot of money is put in place, and then eventually there is no results. Madam Speaker, we do not want people to come here to answer why, to answer questions why a lot of money was set aside for tree planting and there are no results at all. And Madam Speaker, even the county governments can embrace this as a project in the county government where they can have maybe a bioaesthetic department that just deals with infrastructure to ensure that there's greenness along the infrastructure. The department can deal with trees, planting of trees. The department can deal with also planting of grass. The department can also deal with pruning of the trees, so that if trees are planted, they do not just become wild. They should be beautified so that anybody using the road sees that the roads are neat, instead of just them being shrubs. And even greenness should be maintained in terms of rainy season and even during the dry season, Madam Speaker. I was at Abu Dhabi at one point, and even in dry seasons, you just see the greenness of the trees. You just see also, the greenness of the grass. And you see also that the pruning is so neat, and this is something that is doable with the county government. So there's need to actually address this issue. And I want to say that this issue, by the way, I want to urge Senator Kibiru, kindly, it should become a bill. it can go a notch higher from a motion and become a bill so that it is enshrined in the law of the land. But if it is enshrined in the law of the land, then this should be protected by the Senate, because the Senate represents the counties and the interests of the counties, and even the beautification of the counties, and even the infrastructure in the counties. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. I support this motion.
Senator Halake Abshiro.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I am also, I rise to support this really innovative motion and congratulate my good friend, Senator for Kirinyaga, Senator Kibiru, for this motion. Madam Speaker, this motion is not just timely, but what I like about it is the innovation and the solutions it offers. We as a country have set out on an ambitious, really ambitious program to reforest our really depleted forests of at 6%, and we had not thought of the how. But also we haven't also thought of what is actually going to take us even further down, you know, in terms of the forest cover. Madam Speaker, it is very true that major infrastructure projects have a major impact on our trees and on our biodiversity, and they affect mostly the most vulnerable, the ethnic minorities, the women, but more importantly, the environment as well. But what I like about this motion is the fact that Senator Kibiru actually offers a solution. And this solution seems so workable, Senator Kibiru, and I would echo the request by Senator Musuruve to actually make this into law so that a framework exists for implementation of the suggestions you make in this motion. And we will be more than happy to support you or co-sponsor with you, because this is really a very innovative piece of work. Madam Speaker, SDG 9, which is on industry, innovation, and infrastructure, is very important because in a growing population and in countries that are seeking socio-economic development, it's inevitable that we have big infrastructure projects, be they dams, be they roads, railways, and many other projects of the same nature, or even oil wells and the rest of them. But what is not adequate is the measures put in place to ensure that these projects don't have negative impacts on the biodiversity and on the communities that live there. But one thing we must then be able to look at is that there's a difference between planting trees and growing trees. Planting is fine, Senator Kibiru, and we're very happy that you have given us this very innovative way of doing it, because for a few years, people will be at the infrastructure development sites, and that is where this motion becomes very innovative, because a tree needs 3 years minimum to grow. And a lot of times, even when we have planted trees, they don't survive the 3 years because we plant and we move on to other things, and we don't even check or measure whether or not the trees survived. But I think if we couple every major infrastructure development with tree growing, not tree planting and of course growing, and because these projects take a few years, and there are people on site working on this project, then we can nurture the trees as well and grow the trees. So I think this is really workable, and therefore the 3-year period that a tree needs to survive can actually be achieved if we then make sure we anchor our tree growing initiatives on our infrastructure development. Madam Speaker, the biodiversity, the critical habitats, and local communities are the most affected by these major infrastructure projects. In fact, then if these same communities then are engaged to grow these trees, then that will become a very sustainable way, and as envisioned in SDG 9, which requires that industry goes along with innovation and sustainable and resilient infrastructure. For now, what we have is extractive infrastructure development. We've seen Nairobi National Park, the SGR passed through it. Part of that natural resource was lost to the infrastructure development, and we lost parts of the park. But I don't think we have actually renewed or replaced the lost fauna that was there before. So with that in mind, Madam Speaker, I am very happy and actually very encouraged that this House is looking at sustainable solutions with regards to our reforestation, but also with regards to us achieving our SDG 9 and at the same time a forest cover of minimum 10%. And we must as a country strive to go beyond the 10% because the 10% barely covers hotspot areas or habitats for wildlife and for communities that live there. Madam Speaker, there's also this notion that northern Kenya, because it doesn't have the kind of trees that we're accustomed to seeing, that pastoral areas are bare. But one thing, if you look at the forest cover, places in northern Kenya actually have more than 10% forest cover. It's just that these forests are indigenous and may not look like the forest that we are used to. But that said, I think we are on to the right thing, and I'd encourage the good senator of Kirinyaga to actually take this a notch higher, as other colleagues have said, and take it and create a framework that puts in place the how of how we're going to do this. And I think this would be really something that will be innovative. And in fact, we could also then nominate him for an SDG champion. I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I support.
I have no further requests, and I therefore call upon Senator Kibiru to reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to start by thanking the senators who have contributed to this very important motion. We have Senator Kajwang, who seconded the motion, and other senators, including my friend Halake, Doiga, and all the others who have been able to contribute to this motion. Madam Speaker, I've picked a number of issues that we shall be addressing and which will push. One critical thing that has come, and I like what Senator Alaka has said, is we need to be able to address the issue of how. The idea is good, we need trees, we know where to plant, but the question is how. So, Madam Speaker, as a mover of the motion, I'll be seeking to move it a notch higher and probably be able to come up with a bill that can make some of these issues mandatory. Having said that, Madam Speaker, is that as we conclude the motion, a few issues need to be highlighted, like the need for the policy to ensure that it is mandatory for everybody who gets a contract. May it be in the rural village to put maram, may it be in the highways, may it be building classes in schools and other government institutions. Infrastructure, Madam Speaker, is not necessarily roads. When we are doing a government institution, when we are building a school, when we are doing a borehole somewhere, as long as a contract is given by the national government or the county government, Madam Speaker, we need to make it mandatory that a number of trees need to be planted, Madam Speaker. Further, Madam Speaker, is that the motion will, one of the issues that also have come up is, it's important, Madam Speaker, to encourage probably and give incentives to people who have idle land. And Madam Speaker, we need to agree on acreage that probably if you have a piece of land, and because land has been demarcated a lot, we can give incentives for people who cultivate trees purely for purposes of aesthetics and for the benefits that we are talking about, for the benefits of soil erosion, creating, covering our ecosystems, and for purposes of sustaining the various ecosystems, then probably the government, both the government, the national and the county governments, need to come up with policies of incentives. I plant trees on my 3 acres, and I said I will not cut the trees or I will not harvest the tree for the next 20 years. Madam Speaker, how do we compensate to ensure that these people do sustain those trees in there? And we will cover a lot of areas. The other thing, Madam Speaker, that has come up, and this came up through Senator Matangi, is that the already constructed infrastructure, Madam Speaker, like for instance, we have the Mombasa Road. If you can see the Mombasa Road, all the acacia trees that were there have been cut and used to burn charcoals or to produce charcoals for that matter. So, Madam Speaker, I think we can agree deliberately, the counties, and even if it is a Kenya National Highway Authority, to be able to be forced, not even to be persuaded, that we need trees and husbandry of the trees along the Mombasa Highway. We have trees and we have experts in this country, Madam Speaker. That is why we have carefully Kenya Forests Research Institute, where scientists who are highly trained have all species of trees that can grow anywhere. So, Madam Speaker, those are some of the issues that will come up in this bill, in this motion, and will be captured in the bill if when I take this motion into the next level. Madam Speaker, again, we have idle hand by the government. Before the government decides what it is that they want to do with some of the very many pieces of land that you see as you go to Naivasha, you drive to other national parks or reserves or game reserves. Madam Speaker, let's implore on the government and the county government to take planting of trees seriously. This country has a tendency, Madam Speaker, of just talking and not doing the work. And that is why we must be able as a Senate to come up on how to help them to address the issue of how. Madam Speaker, now that a number of issues has been proposed and ways forward and proposals, and I believe we have captured a number of them, I promise that I'll be following the recommendations that have been made by the senators. And as we prepare the bill, we'll be following up the implementation of the recommendations that have been recommended by the senators who are contributing to this motion. With those remarks, Madam Speaker, I want to request the senators to kindly vote for the motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I determine that this is a matter that does not affect counties and we can therefore proceed to vote. I therefore put the question that, aware of the numerous benefits that trees play in environmental conservation, combating climate change, air and water purification, carbon sequestration, flood control, prevention of soil erosion, human and wildlife sustenance, urban planning, as well as other social and economic benefits, noting that Kenya has and continues to implement various infrastructure projects across the country, among them railways, roads and highways, airports, sea and inland ports, pipelines, dams, among others. Concerned by the extent of environmental degradation that takes place when undertaking such infrastructure projects entailing clearance of trees, foliage, soils, rocks, excavation of quarries, interference with forests, wetlands, rivers, drainage systems, and other embankments, as well as human-wildlife displacement along the paths of the infrastructure project, acknowledging that the Environmental Management and Coordination Act, Act number 8 of 1999, and the guidelines issued thereon require an environmental audit to be undertaken before any infrastructure projects are undertaken, with a view to identifying potential environmental impacts of the proposed projects, assessing the significance of those impacts, and proposing mitigation measures to address the negative impacts of the said projects on the environment. Concerned, however, that the implementation of these provisions has failed to comprehensively address the continued large-scale environmental degradation that takes place during construction of these infrastructure projects, and the mitigation measures undertaken thereon have failed to compensate for the damage done to the environment, as well as the negative effects of human and wildlife population along the infrastructure projects paths. Aware that the national government has launched an ambitious plan to plant 1.8 billion trees by the year 2022, with a view to enhancing the country's tree cover from 6.2% to the global acceptance minimum of 10%, and that this entails, among other, planting at least 1 million trees annually in each of the 47 counties. Underscoring the need to balance between development and sustainable environmental management for the benefit of present and future generations as enshrined in the preamble to the Constitution of Kenya. Noting that planting of tree buffers alongside and around major infrastructure projects in the country would help offset the carbon footprint of these projects, enhance the beauty and aesthetics of the projects, create safe spaces for human recreation and for wildlife to thrive, and help in meeting the target of 10% national tree cover by the year 2022. Now, therefore, the Senate resolves that the national government, together with the county governments, formulate a policy mandating the planting of trees alongside and all around all major infrastructure projects across the country, setting out the roles of various actors as both the national and country levels, and outlining incentives and penalties to ensure that the policy is complied with, in ensuring a balance is attained between the development and environmental conservation. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable Senators, we now proceed to the next order.
Order number 9, motion, legal and policy interventions for caregivers of persons with permanent motor and neurological disorders.
The mover of this motion is not there, so it stands deferred.
Order number 10, motion, report of the Parliament of Kenya delegation to the sessions of African Caribbean Parliamentary Assembly and the sessions of the ACPU Joint Parliamentary Assembly.
The same applies to this motion. Senator Professor Margaret Kamar is not present. It stands deferred.
Order number 11, motion, reports of the Parliament of Kenya delegation to the Global Summit on Open Governance Partnership.
Honorable Senators, the motion in order number 11, number 12 by Senator Abdullahi Ali, number 13 by Senator Pogisho, number 14 by Senator Kihika, all the way to number 15 cannot be processed today as the movers are not there, and therefore they all stand deferred. Honorable Senators, there being no other business, it is now time to adjourn the House. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until Tuesday, 17th September 2019 at 2:30 p.m. at the County Assembly of Kitui.